Big Sills, a week away from the National Football League's draft. A week away. I was just telling Tone, how many times do you think you can cook this hamburger? I mean, right? Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think they'll do? Go down, go up. Three picks, 4 picks, 2 picks, this guy, that guy. All right, man, I'm with you. Enough. Week out from what will be a pretty important draft for the Philadelphia Eagles and a lot of teams in the NFL, really. Okay? And by the way, this Matt Patricia story is funny. So is he an Eagle assistant coach or is he not an Eagle assistant coach? Personally, I think the Twitter folks over there at the NovaCare Center jumped the gun a little bit, and Howie and Nick Sirianni wanted to announce that Matt Patricia is now part of the coaching staff in some capacity, maybe special teams or what have you. Look, Matt's a good assistant coach. I don't have a problem with Matt Patricia being an assistant coach. Surely he brings down something from New England. Now, if you're telling me, do you want Matt Patricia as your head football coach? Absolutely not. Every single New England Patriot coach who has gone on to be a head coach, except for Bill O'Brien, has turned out to be a turd. If you're telling me, Sills, would you ever want somebody to be interviewed that Bill Belichick coached? No. You wouldn't want anyone that was in that coaching staff? No. Not one of them. Charlie Weiss turned out to be a turd. Joe Judge was a turd. I mean, Romeo Crennel was kind of a Parcells guy. Wasn't really a Belichick guy, but he was with Bill a long time. Bill Belichick doesn't produce head football coaches. He just doesn't. The Eagles do a better job. Get this. The Philadelphia Eagles do a better job at producing head coaching candidates than the New England Patriots do with Bill Belichick, who's arguably the greatest coach in the history of the National Football League. Okay? He doesn't produce assistant coaches that go on and do shit. He just never does. Why in the world would you ever interview somebody off that coaching tree? Via Field Yates. While it's not official yet, Eagles coach Nick Sirianni says there are trending in the direction of the team hiring Matt Patricia to the coaching staff. All right, great. I think Matt could bring a lot to the table. It's all good. I mean, I think they have a convention center of coaches now at the NovaCare Center. But at the end of the day, he's a quality coach. Assistant coach, sure, no problem. I don't care if Darius Slay doesn't like him or not. That has no bearing on whether I'm going to hire a coach, whether Darius Slay likes him. Why would that have any implications on whether or not you hire a guy? Let me just put it to you this way. Matt Patricia will be an assistant coach longer than Darius Slay will be a Philadelphia Eagle moving forward from April 20th. There's a better chance that Matt Patricia's an Eagle longer than him. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter what Darius Slay, how he feels, how their relationship was in Detroit. I don't really care. If you can add good people to your building, you can help your special teams, whatever. By the way, look at Yacht. Yacht goes, Patricia's a clown. I don't know. He's got 3 Super Bowl rings. He had to have been around something. How many Super Bowl rings are on that Eagle coaching staff? 0. I don't know. Before you call a guy a clown that has 3 rings, ask yourself what you have in the building. Ain't nobody in that building. Jeff Stoutland's got one. Okay? Jeff Stoutland's got one. Okay? He's got 3. All I'm saying again is he's a good assistant. Head coach? No, I'm not hiring the guy to be my head football coach. Let me do this to you. And before we get out of the gate here and we start going into topics and we start our Bijan Robinson beating of the drum here and why the Eagles should draft him. You know, I've been telling you guys the history of the Philadelphia Eagles since 2000 has not been very good when it comes to drafting. And the record shows it. let me bring this up. By the way, at the bottom of the hour, Mark Schlereth, 3-time Super Bowl champion and Fox Sports analyst, will join us at the bottom of this hour. I gotta throw this at you here. You know, when you look at the current roster and the position that it's at right now, and you look at how this football team has been built, I got to tell you, I think it's kind of impressive. You know me. I look at both sides of the aisle, and as I tell you, your history since 2000 hasn't been very good. What about the current roster? Quarterback, Jalen Hurts, your offense, drafted. Gainwell, drafted. A.J. Brown, trade. Devontae Smith, draft. Jordan Mailata, drafted. Landon Dickerson, drafted. Jason Kelce, drafted. Cam Jurgens, we're slugging him in and placing him in that right guard position, drafted by the Eagles. Lane Johnson, drafted. Dallas Goedert, drafted. Quez Watkins, drafted. I think that's freaking remarkable that you have 10 of 11 starters on offense that have been drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, and you completely built that football team on the offensive side through the draft. Kudos to you. That's freaking amazing. That's freaking amazing when you have almost 95% of your offense built through the NFL draft. That is remarkable. That is remarkable. I got it, Jay. But Jay, I think you're going to be surprised because I was. 10 of 11 offensive starters went through the draft via the Eagles. Spectacular. The defense. Brandon Graham, drafted. Fletcher Cox, drafted. Jordan Davis, drafted. Josh Sweat, drafted. Will linebacker, Morrow, free agent. Nakobe Dean, drafted. Hassan Reddick, free agent. Slay, trade. Terrell Edmonds, free agent. Reed Blankenship, drafted. Bradbury, free agent. Avonte Maddox, drafted. So out of your defense, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of your 11 guys were drafted by the Eagles. So you're telling me 17 of your 22 went through the draft and the Eagle draft room. 17 of 22 starters is spectacular. That's spectacular drafting. Okay? That's spectacular. Spectacular. 7 of 11. I mean, plus Avonte Maddox. Dude, that's getting it done. You know, I'm telling you, and I'm going to say this one more time, man. Okay? I'm going to say it one more time to you. I think Howie Roseman's a better general manager since he's come out of the broom closet. He's been a better general manager. He's listened more. He's taken the advice of his assistants better. He's done a better job of this. And as they prepare for the upcoming draft, I'm more apt to believe that they are going to get this thing right. And Jay goes, so everything you were ranting about a month ago, you now take back? No. Your history sucks. Why would I take back what you are and what you did? Take back what, Jay? That you drafted 37 DBs, almost 40 defensive backs in 23 years, and you don't have one on the starting team, basically, that is worth the shit at corner? What do you want me to take back? Your history? I'm not going to revise. See, a guy like Jay wants me to revise his history. Dude, this is your history. This is current and recent history. Take back what? Take back what? I just said I think Howie's a better since 19. When he's been given the reins again, is a better general manager. What aren't you hearing? And by the way, once again, take what back? That you sucked for 23 years? And that over the last 4 you've gotten it right? What do you want me to take back? What do you want me to take back? You want me to change the history? Guys like Jay want you to change the history and say, Sil, say that the Eagles do a good job drafting. I can't. But recently, since 2019, again, watch this, Jay. Watch this. Since Howie's come out of the broom closet, he's been a better GM. This has nothing to do with 23 years of history, Jay. This is about what you've done recently since he's been given the baton and the 3-year contract extension. Okay? I can't take back your history. I know you'd like to, because guys like Jay are the kind of people that said, hey, Jalen Hurts, what are the Eagles doing drafting that guy? Now you're like, I never said that. This guy's got like palsy. This guy's got Tourette. You know the guy who's a sports talk Tourette syndrome guy. You know? Yesterday's a great example. How about Mike Missinelli going like this? Sileo, so if you flopped on Jalen Hurts, I go, Mike, did you flop on Carson Wentz? He goes, I guess I did. So when you tell me that, it's an easy comeback. I don't flop on anything. I give you the facts, and I give it to you straight. And what you guys don't like to hear is where I go with things. It's all good. Okay? It's all good, man. This is a pretty good job, though. Okay? 17 of your 22 in recent drafting made up your team. It's damn good, man. It's damn good. That football team that you have right now in Philadelphia is a team built through the draft. However, the problem that you have is your premium positions on defense are not built through the draft. Your edge rusher and your corners. And they're not built through the draft. As a matter of fact, you're not very good at cornerback at all. And you're not very good at edge rusher. So, I mean, the best defensive football player that they've drafted in 23 years has been Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham has been solid. He's not spectacular or great. There's never been really a playmaking guy on that Eagle defense since Reggie White. Well, Hugh Douglas was pretty good. Doc was pretty good too. Okay? I put Brian Dawkins in there for sure. Brian Dawkins. Since Reggie, Brian Dawkins, Hugh Douglas, Jeremiah Trotter. I'd put him in there. But it's been the Chris Longs and guys like that. Chris Longs, Hassan Reddicks. It's been dudes like that on that defensive side of the ball that have been like brought in as hired guns. But the majority of the football team, and I'm just trying to make a point here, the majority of the football team, I wouldn't call Trent Cole exceptional. I'd say he was a really good ball player. Okay? He's not the better player than Fletcher. And by the way, I love how you guys are giving Jordan Davis more time than you gave Fletcher Cox. Because when Fletcher Cox first burst onto the scene, he put up numbers. That guy put up nothing. And we got to be patient with Jordan. Nobody would. This is the NFL, man. You're not on a 4-year scholarship. You don't have You don't have time to you're not supposed you know what makes me crazy is when I hear this from fans. You got to give them time to develop. This is the NFL. I'm paying you $8 million or $6 million a year. You better be ready to go, dude. You better be ready to go. Let's go, dog. Fletcher came on the scene. You went like this with your eyeballs. Fletcher's a good-looking prospect. You look at Jordan. By the way, I would say this to you about Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is probably the highest drafted nose guard in the history of the NFL. I've never seen a nose guard that high drafted. Okay? The Eagles have struggled to draft blue chip talent on defense, for sure. This is Tone. The guys that made up the majority of the Eagles roster was built more so on hard work versus talent, which emulates what Philly is all about. I agree with that. The Chris Longs of the world, guys coming in where people thought that you were, hey, quite frankly, check this out. It's a great take by Tone. TJ Edwards, undrafted. Kaiser White, let loose. These were guys that were cast-offs that were brought into Philly and worked their way back into being mainstream NFL players, hence the contracts they got. When you get a contract that's 3 times or 5 times the money you were making in previous years, you came in and did your job. And Philly gave you the opportunity for that. And that's the kind of guy Howie Roseman likes. That's right, man. Hey, and get this. Tone says a roster full of overachievers. Here's what you love about that. I'd rather have a roster of players on desperation than players in a comfort zone. Players in a comfort zone play in Dallas. Players with desperation play in Philly. You know what that means? What's wrong with Hassan Reddick? Why is he on his 3rd team in 3 years? TJ Edwards, undrafted. Kaiser White, let loose. James Bradbury, given up on in New York. Slay, given up on in Detroit. All those type of players. Javon Hargrave, given up in Pittsburgh. What is that? What's that? That is a symbol of this. Those guys were in desperation to play their asses off every single freaking day to get into a position where they could make more money and feed their families. And that's exactly what you had last year. Do you understand every single free agent that the Philadelphia Eagles had last year got a raise? Think about that. Isaac Seumalo, raise. Miles Sanders, raise. Bradbury, raise. TJ Edwards, raise. Kaiser White, raise. Zach Pascal, raise. Gardner Johnson, raise. Every single guy came into Philly on a desperation contract. Either it was going to go one way or the other. I'd rather have a team full of guys that are starving to eat than guys that are fat and get fed and know it, that they're going to get fed. The difference between the Dallas Cowboys roster and the Philadelphia Eagles roster is exactly that. The Eagle roster, and the reason that the Eagles feel comfortable redoing the contracts and giving more money to the offensive side of the football, because they feel comfortable with those guys. Darius Slay's on a 1-year contract. Took a $4 million pay cut. Lane Johnson's not taking pay cuts. Jordan Mailata's not taking pay cuts. Those guys on that side of the ball aren't taking pay cuts. Okay? They're not taking pay cuts on that side. They're just not. The Eagles are a desperation team. They thrive on it. That city thrives on it. What does that mean? Well, you got to grab your lunch pail every day and your miner's hat, and you got to turn that light on and go into the tunnel and dig for coal every day. And in the Eagles players' eyes, these guys get up every morning and dig for gold. That's why the Cowboys are coddled. Jerry Jones coddles his guys. That's why they don't win. The Eagle guys go out and play with desperation. When Howie puts you on a one-year contract, know this. What if C.J. Gardner bombed? You think anybody's giving him $6 million? No. What if T.J. Edwards didn't play well? You think anybody's giving him $7 million? Or how about Kaiser White, who made $1 million last year? Guy makes $5.5 million. That right there is the prime example of Philadelphia football, is Kaiser White. Kaiser White, who's a good player, got a 4 times the amount raise. Think about that. Okay? Slay, dude, Darius Slay and Matt Patricia will be fine. They'll be fine. You guys make these players and coaches sound like they're infants and that they're preschool people. Matt Patricia's brought in as an assistant coach. And I can promise you, Matt Patricia's already gone probably to Darius Slay. Or when he gets the first chance and he goes, hey, man, I know we didn't have a good go of it in Detroit. I just want to have a clean slate with everything. And please, let's just go forward and let's win some ball games. That's all you want, man. Dude, don't worry about that shit. Okay, how about like the guy, Bobby Wagner, going back to Seattle? You guys are so lame. I hate fans that do that shit because you make athletes sound stupid, immature, and there are some, but dude, everybody's in the business world here. These guys, instead of carrying briefcases, they carry helmets. They're intelligent men. You don't think that Bobby Wagner ending the first time around was shitty with Pete Carroll and Schneider and them guys? What happened? They shook hands, kissed and made up. Everybody's back in the building again trying to win ball games. Stop that dumb shit. It'll be a non-factor. Or the Eagles would not. Why would the Eagles bring in a guy who's going to create chaos in their coaching staff? Yeah, because the Eagles are known for that. The Eagles are not known for bad hires. Even Chip Kelly had a winning record. Marshall, me too, man. Guys are idiots that think that. Matt Patricia's going to come in and ruin. Who do you think he's, T.O.? He's got 3 rings. Stupid. I'll tell you this. Who do you think's a better defensive coach? Jonathan Gannon or Matt Patricia? I think it's a great hire too. Thank you, Marshall. You don't think Jonathan Gannon's a better defensive coordinator or defensive coach than Matt Patricia, do you? Because that's a bull-faced lie. That is a bull-faced lie. And you got a guy in the building that at least shaves. Every other coach in that building is a super young dude. You got some guy in the building with some experience. It's all good, man. It's a great hire. And by the way, you know what's becoming evident in Philadelphia? This is becoming the reclamation project place for players and GMs and potential GMs to come. Matt Patricia's going to reinvent himself in Philadelphia, being able to deal with Darius Slay, being able to deal with a culture like the Eagles. And you know what he's probably going to get? Another opportunity to be a head football coach one day because the Eagles are pumping these guys out. Relax, guy. Okay, look at it. He was on the staff that lost to the Eagles. Yeah, he was also on the staff that won 3 rings, ding dong. Well, hold on. I want to make sure I get that right here. Because how many Super Bowl rings? Matt Patricia. He lost to the Eagles. Yeah, how many rings does he have, though? How many Super Bowl rings does Matt Patricia have? He's got 3 Super Bowl rings. And he won 2 as defensive coordinator. And in 2016 defense, held the NFL and had the lowest points allowed. Served as the Patriots play caller. And that thing last year was a shit show. By the way, personally for me, That's a great hire for the Eagles, bringing in a guy like Matt Patricia. Dude, is the guy a head coach? No. Guy's got 3 Super Bowl rings. He's hanging around Belichick. You got a guy like the more minds you have in the building like that. I hate how fans do that shit where they just turn around and think that players are not going to do like what Bobby Wagner did. Bobby Wagner had a bad ending in Seattle. What did he do, though? They kissed and made up. Schneider, Carroll, here I'm back. Let's go play ball. Don't be stupid, people. NFL players carry helmets, not briefcases, but they're business dudes too. With that being said, a guy that I respect a ton, and he's carved out some time for us here, the owner of 3 Super Bowl rings. You can watch him on Sundays, and also you can see him on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, FS1. A boatload of times is our friend Mark Schlereth, and he joins us now here. Mark, isn't it crazy how sometimes you hear fans and you see fans and they just say, this guy's going to upset the locker room? And I'm like, where do you get that from, where players and coaches, you may have had a bad experience in Detroit, Patricia and Darius Slay, but at the end of the day, Mark, right? Players and coaches want to win ball games. I'm not going to sit around here and talk about personalities. I mean, initially, what's your thought of the hiring of Patricia to the coaching staff today?
Yeah, well, I think that Matt Patricia is just one of those guys that is he's a super smart football coach. And I know the guys that have played for him as a positional coach absolutely love the guy. And, you know, he's going in as kind of a grand poobah of all things defense, right? He's going in as kind of an overseer of the defense. The issue really with Matt Patricia was, as a head coach, he did not connect or relate to his players very well. And I was doing a Detroit game when he was the head coach out there, and it is a miserable day. It's like in December. It is windy. It is, I mean, filthy cold. It's raining, you know, freezing rain. It's coming down sideways. And they've got this beautiful indoor facility, and he's making them practice outside because it's going to make them tougher. I'm like, hey, listen, man, you play in the NFL. You don't get any tougher than that. Like, this does not help you. And at the time, David Blau is going to start at quarterback at this particular game. That dude's got a pea shooter for an arm. Like, you're not going to get anything done outside there. And the players are all just rolling their eyes like, this is the dumbest shit you could possibly ask me to do. And, you know, and that was that Belichick influence. The problem is that Belichick has 20 years or 20 whatever years of doing this. And he's got guys very much like Parcells did, very much like, you know, guys that he brings in that follow him around to make sure that they implement the system. He had Brady forever, right? And if I can dog cuss Brady, guys like Teddy Bruschi and guys have told me, man, he'll get in a meeting with Tom Brady at the time and was like, man, I could have a quarterback from Foxborough High School do the shit that you're doing right now. You're awful, right? And just lambaste him in a team meeting, and then everybody just falls into line. Well, if you can do it to Tom Brady and he can take the coaching, you can do it to anybody. But when you don't have cachet and you haven't built that rapport with your players, and you come in there and you try to do the same stuff, players just go, okay, whatever, dude. You like this ain't the Patriots, right? And so that's the issue that you get into. And a lot of his assistant coaches have had that same issue as you travel around the league. At least that's what the players will tell you.
I want to take you to the contract that Jalen Hurts just signed, this extension. Mark, 15 games, an elite year. They were sold back a couple years back with Wentz that he was the future. I give them credit for erasing that muscle memory and pushing it all in. Is there enough of a sample size for you for what this contract is for Jalen Hurts to say that Jalen Hurts is worth the investment of $51 million over the next 5 years?
Yeah, you know, I look at Jalen Hurts and unbelievable one, just the character of the kid, right? Like, first off, you're sitting there at halftime of a semifinal game against Georgia where you're horrible in that game, and Nick Saban benches you for a hotshot freshman. And at that particular point in time, you know you're probably never going to play at Alabama again. And I'll never forget watching that game. And this is what I love about team sports, man. That's what I love about football, Dan. And like this is like makes me emotional. When you're able to celebrate somebody else's success like it's your own. Where else in the world, other than your own kids, where else do you find that? And most guys, let's be honest, will be pouting on the sideline, right? You feeling sorry for themselves. Every time Tua makes a play, man, he's the first dude greeting. He was running down the football field so excited for that touchdown, like celebrating that touchdown like he threw it and Tua threw it. And
Mark, you
knowing,
believe him, don't you? You
yeah,
believe it, because some guys are superficial, but you believed it.
yeah, there is no question. And then I've been around this kid over the last couple of years calling games, and one, he's a coach's son who's absolutely stoic. He's got the heartbeat of that football team, man. He is the leader of that football team. The guys love him, the coaches love him, and you've just watched him steadily improve from leaving Alabama to going to Oklahoma, overcoming adversity. His first year backing up Wentz and then getting to be that starter, and everybody complaining about, can he prove that he can be a pocket guy as well? And like he just has answered every single question. And then you look at it, and here's the funny thing, Dan, about the cap. Like the cap is such bullshit, as you well know, right? The whole cap thing is, if they don't want to pay you, they cry cap poverty, right? Oh my gosh, if we pay you, we can't pay anybody else. And oh my goodness, it's the cap, and there's no way we can manipulate it. And oh my goodness, right? But if they want to pay you, they find the money to pay you. And it's so funny because you look at the cap values. Here's $251 million, $51 million a year that he's making, the highest paid guy in the history of the league from just an average annual salary basis. This year, his cap count is $6.5 million or $6.15 million.
Insane.
The next year, it's 13. The next year, it's 21, and then 30. In 2027, it's 32 million bucks. At that point, that'll be chump change, and he'll probably redo it. Like so. I don't know how it's fungible, right? They can move it around, they can make it, they can do whatever they want with it. And I always say, if they want to pay you, they'll find the money to pay you. If they don't, they'll cry cap poverty, and then they'll make you look like a bad guy as you go out the door. So yeah, I don't want to hear the whole cap garbage, man. I'm happy for him. The kid couldn't be more stoic, couldn't be a better kid. And I had this meeting with him. 2 years ago, I'm calling it's probably the second, third game of the season. They're playing San Francisco. And so I want to know, like, I always want to be educated, right? I want to learn. So I'm like, hey, man, walk me through the RPO game, right? What are you looking at? And like, I know you fake the handoff and you're looking at the D end, but are you looking beyond the D end to the linebacker, to the safety? What are you trying to, you suck him in and throw it behind him, whatever. And so I'm trying to go so I can explain it, and he just looks at me stoic. He goes, no. And so I'm like, maybe he didn't understand it. Like, this is what I'm thinking in my head, right? I go, let me rephrase the question, right? So now I go, okay, so what I'm asking you is, and I go through the whole litany again, right? He just looks at me and goes, no. And I'm like, dude, this is the national television broadcast. Like, I'm just trying to educate the fans. I'm not, I'm not selling trade secrets. And he goes, no. He goes, you're cousins with the other coach. I go, what are you talking about? Shanahan. And I go, no, I played for his dad, right? I go, now I've known Kyle since he was 14, but he's like, no, I ain't telling you shit. Like, it's like, it was priceless. I mean, it was just absolutely priceless. And I love the kid. I think he's awesome. I think you watch his improvement. You watch the way he works. I've been at practice and watched the way he leads his football team. Dude, he is, he's legit. He's why you get involved in this game, and he is one of those guys that you just would absolutely love coaching.
Here, I'm going to throw this at you, Mark. And I was in Dallas when Jimmy first got there, and people keep telling me this, and I'm going to get to the point on Bijan Robinson here. Everyone always assumes that Emmitt Smith had the better O-line than Barry Sanders. Well, Tom Landry had those same dudes. Tune was there for 3 years for Landry. Mm-hmm. Gogan was there with Landry. Crawford Kerr was there with Landry. Nate Newton was there with Landry. The only guy Jimmy brought in that year was Mark Stebnoski to take over for Tom Rafferty.
Mm-hmm.
What changed the building? They brought in an elite back, and Emmett made that line cohesive. And before you know it, it was an elite line. You have one of the greatest lines. Mark, I think this line, Dickerson's turning into what I think is going to be the heir apparent to Zach Martin. Mulata's turning into a mainstay. You may have Shell and Upshaw there at the left side. Lane's the best right tackle in the game that I've seen in a long time. You have a Hall of Fame center. If you put a talent who's rated the third best talent in the game, and it's an RPO system, like you said, I know it's long here, but this guy's going to create a short passing game for you, Bijan Robinson. You're taking 17 carries a game away from Jalen, not production. Doesn't that make the most sense to put – it's the only position that doesn't have an elite player at it. The tight end's elite, Dallas Goedert. Yeah. You guys had Terrell Davis. That made everything elite, what Alex Gibb was doing. Isn't that the right pick for them?
Oh, I wouldn't hesitate. I would love to see that because that kid's special. I mean, that kid is special. And here's the thing. One of the things about drafting players is when you miss on players and you miss positionally on players, what ends up happening to you, Dan, is you continue to draft that position year after year after year, and you start neglecting positions of strength. You're like, well, we don't have to address the O-line again. We don't have to address we can survive without getting depth there, and we can survive without drafting a player there and essentially grooming that player. They took Cam Jurgens last year, and I don't know if you watched him on tape in the preseason. That dude is an ass-kicking machine.
He is. He's going to be a great parent for Kelsey.
Yeah, he's a damn good player. Yeah. And yet, he's just sitting on the bench waiting for Kelsey to retire. Dickerson is a full-grown ass man, but that was a guy that they groomed, a guy that they brought in. Did they need him? No, but they did that. They took Jordan Mailata as a guy that's playing really well, but they took Andre Dillard in the first round. They have addressed positions that even healthy positions when they find great players there. And I'm with you. The Robinson kid is special. And when you look at the way they run their offense and you look at their run game and you look at their QB run game and you look at the space they create with those guys in that RPO game and in the zone read game and all that, and in the straight handoff game. That's the thing about Philadelphia is, how do you want us to whip your ass today? You want us to whip it in the RPO game? We can do that. You want us to rip it in the zone read game? We can do that. You want us to just go straight smash mouth and run it down your throat in the zone game? We can do that. Oh, you want us to go, we called it, what do we call it? The transportation series, where you're blocking down a tackle, blocking down a tight end, pulling guards and centers and get to the outside. Like we can get out there because we've got that kind of athleticism with our, with Dickerson and with Kelsey and all that. So we can get, and Goddard, as you mentioned, Goddard's one of the best players in the league that nobody talks about. That dude is a full grown ass man. So they can beat you any way you decide you want to get beat today. They're special. And that would be a special player. The other thing I think in Philly, that because of the system, because the quarterback run system, because they rotate, multiple backs into that system, I don't necessarily think it's one of those, hey, we draft this back and he's only good for 4 years. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit, I still understand that position, the beating that position takes, but I still think that there is a big time value there for the Philadelphia Eagles. And they've got so many special players up and down their roster. And I agree with you on they've got good players in their backfield, don't get me wrong, but they don't have an elite special player like they do at wide receiver, multiple guys, like they do at tight end, like they do across that offensive line, like they do at the quarterback position right now. So it would just give them another elite player at another, I don't call them skill position because there's no greater skill than moving a man from point A to point B against his will. So I will call them ball touchers is probably not good, Dan. I'll call them I'll call them maybe periphery players, ball handlers. How about that?
Okay, well, I guess I'll take that one too here.
All right.
Please tell me I'm wrong or I'm right here on your guy, Kyle Shanahan. I know you have great respect for the Shanahan family, but Mark, I'm going to give you now a laundry list of a coach who can't protect quarterbacks. RG3, injured, brought back too soon. Jimmy Garoppolo, injured in San Francisco. Trey Lance, injured in San Francisco. Brock Purdy, brought back on the field by the head coach instead of sending him into the locker room. Now he may miss the entire season. Mark, is it me or is that just coincidence that every quarterback that he's ever had outside of Matt Ryan has been hurt and he can't protect them? Am I wrong when I'm looking at is that a poor observation or is it just coincidence?
I think I think it's probably more coincidence. The Brock Purdy one, that kid, that play happens 4 times a game on Sunday. Where you get your arm hit as you're throwing it, and
but do you use a tight end on an elite pass rusher?
I will tell you this. That has become one of those things. That has become one of those things that people always complain about, like. And maybe I'm just old, but I'm like, hey man, our tight ends had to block people, right? And that was part of the deal.
You played in the Bavaro era where you had to be somebody, right? Block.
Yeah, where you had to do that stuff. And it's part of that is the deception of our play action game, and we can buy ourselves a little bit more time and all that kind of stuff. Jimmy Garoppolo, let's just face it, Jimmy Garoppolo, I love Jimmy, but Jimmy just tends to find a way to get hurt.
He's a paper-mache guy.
Yeah, I think the Trey Lance thing is interesting because, listen, they're trying to trade him right now.
I see that.
And what ended up happening there, I believe, this is just my own theory, but I believe that they thought Trey Lance was going to have a little bit more wiggle to him, a little bit more Lamar. And when they got him, he's a straight line guy. He's not an edge presence guy. And so if you go back over last year, and it's only a couple of games, I did the game where he broke his ankle. I was calling that game. But every run, when you start looking at it, every run was like a quarterback power it's all up the middle. It's not to the edge because he doesn't have that wiggle. So he was more of a downhill kind of a little bit more like a tailback that's not a speed guy, right? So they were running him between the tackles, and that's where he was most effective. And because he played a small school, I was a small school guy as well. I think if you're going to take a small school guy, you need to take a small school guy that played a lot. And he's a small school guy that played, 15, 16 games.
Dude, I looked on YouTube. I had to really do some research because I saw 2 games in the last 4 years.
Yeah. So he didn't, he's just not a guy that played. And so I think they looked at it. And, I think one thing that this whole collective bargaining agreement did with the rookie wage scale is when you do make a mistake. And let's face it, if they trade him for a second rounder or even a first rounder, it's a colossal mistake. They gave up 3 for him, right? To move up 9 spots or something from 12 to 3. Yeah. So
3, right?
If that's the way it goes, what this collective bargaining agreement has done, this rookie wage scale, is allowed you to make a horrendous decision and move on and not hamstring your franchise for the next 10 years, like Jamarcus Russell, like one of those deals. And let's face it, the other thing it's done is it's elevated 3rd and 4th round guys that play quarterback into the 1st round, guys that you normally would never take, right? But you're going to take a flyer on them. The other thing that's done is it's pushed down some really good football players toward the middle or end of the 1st round. Because you've got such a desire to land a quarterback, even if the guy's got all kinds of red flags, he's still are going after him. And that's really what it's done.
Two last questions for you here, Mark. If you were going to start your franchise with one of these quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, Mark Andrew, I agree. The best back in the building is Lamar Jackson. The second best is T.K. Dobbins. Hurts has got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, the number one rated according to Pro Football Focus O-line. I was shocked. I didn't realize the Ravens were ranked number 2, the best O-line at the end of last year. But I mean, man, one guy's unanimous. And by the way, he's only 26, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen's 24. If you had to start your football team with one of these two men, who would you put in the building?
I'd put Jalen Hurts in the building. I think he's a better, mechanically, a more sound thrower of the football. And maybe last year, if you had asked me the same question, maybe I would have answered it differently. But you talk about the quote unquote weapons. It's also your job to develop those weapons as a franchise. And it's also your job to put a guy in a position to perform and to improve. And so, you look at DK, it's what is it? Dobbins, the second rounder. They drafted Hurst in the first round a few years ago. These are all with Lamar in the building. Hurst was a first rounder. Lamar was a first rounder. They drafted Hollywood Brown was a first rounder. Boykins was a third rounder. They drafted Bateman was a first rounder. Now, I know they've had some injuries and things of that nature, but
So you don't think he develops players in Baltimore say the elite guys have, because like Kansas City with Mahomes, he doesn't do. I mean, Mahomes won a Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think that elite level throwers and elite level quarterbacks, develop weapons. I don't think it's the other way around. Let's face it, Devontae Adams was a second rounder, right? He became the best receiver in football. Why? Well, because he's got a system and a quarterback. But now, here's the other thing that you have to understand is that when you play the system they play, which is, two backs, multiple tight ends, run first system, we're going to do that. Half the time you're using one wide receiver in those systems, right? If you're running 22 personnel or two wide receivers, if you're running some type of 21 or 12 personnel. And it's not necessarily one of those things where you're running multiple route combinations. You're getting big, heavy, and the bottom line is you're getting safeties down in the box. And one thing I always tell people is when you get a single high safety look, right, and you get an extra safety in the box, there's one thing you can play out of, or there's two coverages you can play out of that. There's either cover 1 or cover 3. Well, any outside release on cover 3, cover 1 is man to man. Cover 3, any outside release is, any vertical release is also man to man in that particular defense, even though it's a zone defense. So the bottom line to me is, when people sit there and say, well, Lamar is like a better pocket passer statistically than Ben Roethlisberger, that's a joke. That is using analytics when you don't really know what's going on. It's like me saying, hey, listen, Shaq was 58% from the field shooting the basketball. Kobe was 44%. Shaq's a better shooter than Kobe. That's it's stupid, right? It's just dumb. But that's how people use advanced analytics at times when they don't use it in conjunction with actually studying film. And so, there's very limited routes, very limited route combinations that you run when you're stacked in there and you run a run first offense. The other thing I get all the time from people, I've been arguing with people on this all the time is, well, hey, Greg Roman was a horrible offensive coordinator. Well, so he took an offense as the coordinator with Colin Kaepernick, and they won, or they went to the Super Bowl and almost won the Super Bowl they lost it in the last minute of the game. And he was the coach of the year as an offensive coordinator with Baltimore in 2019 and called an offense that produced the MVP of the league unanimously. I mean, so I'm like, listen, we say this all the time, and this is what drives me crazy, because a lot of Lamar, a lot of the fans are such sycophants. Like, one of the things that you do as a coach, as a good coach, if you're worth your salt as a coach, you don't ask guys to do things they can't do. You put guys in positions to succeed. And I happen to believe, and I've done enough Baltimore games to believe and to think I know that they put a system in that he could operate. And, and all of a sudden, everybody around Baltimore, that they've won all these games, but they're all freaking idiots, right? They're all morons. And, and Lamar is getting screwed over. I just don't think that's the case. That all the league is telling you right now, and it's not collusion. The league is telling you we don't have a bunch of wide tight ends that can block people. We don't have a 313-pound former defensive lineman that plays fullback for us that has skills and can catch the ball. We don't have multiple running backs, and we don't have we don't have the personnel that Baltimore has to run the offense they have. And we're not going to go ahead and make him the highest paid quarterback and give up 2 first-rounders. And we don't have the personnel to run it. Like the league is telling you what they think. Like, you tell me this. If it's Mahomes, if it's Burrow, if it's Herbert, if it's whoever else it is, and it was the same situation. Hey, Herbert is available, and all you have to do is give up. You make him the highest paid guy and give up 2 first-rounders. There would be 15 teams, Dan, lined up to do that right now, today. And same with Mahomes, and same with Burrow. It's zero question about it, because they feel like, hey, man, this is a guy that can operate an offense, that can be in, hey, we've got 3 wides personnel. We run single tight end who doesn't block anybody, and, single back, 11 personnel. Like, this dude could run that all day long. And there would be 15 teams lined up for any of those guys ready to cut the world's biggest check. But it's not happening for Lamar, because the league is like, hey, man, he's really a bitch to defend, but we're not worried about him eating us up in the passing game. We're worried about his ability to run. And now he's missed 10 games in the last 2 years. We're worried about his ability to stay healthy. And I'll get this one too. One more for you. Like, everybody's on me about, well, if you paid any attention at all, you moron, that that he got hurt in the pocket twice. I don't care. I got hurt more than anybody on the planet. You know what? But I played every Sunday. And you know what they told me every time my contract was up? Well, before my contract was up, while I was playing hurt, they were telling me what a warrior I was and how I was the toughest son of a bitch ever to play the game. And then when my contract was up, they would say, we can't pay you. You've been hurt. Yeah, but I didn't miss any games. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You've been hurt. That all's being injured. I don't care if it's injured on the run or injured in the pocket. You're injured. All that is leverage. That's all NFL teams. You go back to how we started this conversation about the business of football. That's the business of football. Lamar, you got hurt twice. Don't care where you got hurt. You could have got hurt on a bicycle accident. You got hurt. We have leverage. That's how this game operates.
Finally, Mark, and to expand a little bit what you're saying here, and I get everything you're saying on Lamar, but don't you agree? And to me, what I don't like is hearing ex-NFL guys not rooting for a guy trying to break the NFL's model and how the owners control the players. Because at the end of the day, Mark, we're not the partners of the owners. The networks are the partners of the owners, okay? We're just pawns in this here. Why aren't more people rooting for Deshaun Watson deals, for all these players across the league to get more guaranteed money, to get more guaranteed deals? To me, I think this is not so much collusion. It's more that the owners don't want their business model broken. because this has been the 32 Sharks way of doing business, Mark. It's not I heard Jim Irsay at the owners meeting, Mark, saying this in Phoenix. I don't mind paying Lamar $51 million, but I'm not giving him $230 guaranteed. That's more attack on the business model, isn't it? More so than the guaranteed money, because they had to bribe Deshaun Watson to go to Cleveland. That was a bribe to go to Cleveland. Nobody's going to Cleveland to play quarterback. Watson was going to go to Atlanta or Carolina, but Haslam got on his jet with a trash bag of money and said, here, I'm bribing you. Mm-hmm. Isn't that what this is really maybe more about, is the business plan?
Yeah, well, one thing I know about the billionaires is they've got more money than you. They can wait it out. And frankly, I mean, say what you want. They just got leverage. They're smarter than us. Like they know, like every time they lock us out, right? They know there's
87 strike. I was promised 4 checks. I never got them. We lost all that money. We were told we were going to get that. Hey, Mark, we've never won a strike. That's why we don't do it anymore.
Well, here's the interesting thing, in regards to that is there's on any team, it's probably more now, but I always used to call it the 80-20 rule. And you've got to understand this why we can't win. And this is what the owners know about us. 20% of the guys make 80% of the money. The other 80% of the guys share the rest of the 20% of the money that's left over. And so what ends up happening to us is they know when they lock us out, come July, that 80% needs to pay their bills. That 80% didn't save their money. That 80%, remember, and I know people always look at this and like, oh, that's ridiculous. No, it's not.
No,
because what you have to understand is the average career lasts 3.4 years. Still, that hasn't changed since the inception of this game. So you're talking about 80% of the guys that really are living, they're 3 paychecks away from financial disaster. And
Mark, I tell people, if you make $1 million, just say you make $1 million, well, 30% of that is automatically going to taxes. Standard of living is going to take another 150. If you come out of your contract where you're getting half to maybe lower than half, you're not going to sustain that for the rest of your life. Playing 3 years, that's not going to work for you, man. So again, I mean, like you say, I don't think people realize this too, Mark. Half the league is undrafted players.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I think that's the hidden gem here with this whole thing. And I just think Lamar's banging his head against the wall that he's not going to win.
I agree with you. And listen, I think that eventually Lamar will end up re-signing with the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to pay him. But, even the Baltimore I don't know that they'll pay him more than Hurts. But I think what he'll get is, and I think it's already been offered to him, a 3-year, 3-year fully guaranteed contract. And the thing about him at 26 years old, you know what? You re-up at 29. And you go do it again.
You don't let the market get past you. And to me, I want the shorter deals if I'm a player like that, Mark, because look at, remember that deal that Warren Moon had that Lee Steinberg put together, Mark, where it went like this? I'm never going to be the highest paid player in the history of the game, but you know what I won't be? Lower than the third. Every year he got his contract renewed because Elway and Montana and Moreno got their deals because it keeps you in the market. To me, I want shorter deals, not longer deals.
Right. The problem for Lamar, and maybe this is, and I hadn't thought about this until you and I have talked about it. I've been talking about this a bunch on my podcast, which is called the Stinking Truth Podcast, by the way. But I've been talking about this a bunch, but this is the first time I've actually thought about this. I've talked to the Baltimore Ravens. I've talked to John Harbaugh about this multiple times. How sustainable is this offense? And you're like, we're figuring it out. We don't know. And ultimately, he's like, Lamar doesn't take any bigger, like he takes less big hits running around than most pocket quarterbacks take.
Stink, let me stop you for a second, because I had Phil Simms on, and you tell me if you agree with what you're saying right now. Phil said this, I go, He goes, Dan, most of the guys get hit in the pocket. These dual threat guys have more control. He goes, the problem with Lamar and Josh Allen, these guys play too aggressive. Jalen Hurts does this. When you're out in open space, you have more control of how you're going to receive the contact in open space because the game's in front of you, getting down like Russell Wilson, throwing the ball out of bounds. There's more control. When you're in the pocket like this, like, the backside, how many times have you had your knees buckled under because you're sitting there blocking like this and you have no control of the pocket? He says these dual threat guys have more control in open space than they do in the pocket. So they're more likely to get hurt in the pocket.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And this is the conversation I had with John. He's like, he doesn't take a lot of big hits outside the pocket. But think about it. You're scrambling, you're moving, bam, you're planting, you're cutting back. Like ACLs, ruptured Achilles, those things happen in open space. They're not contact injuries. You watch 90% of all ACLs are non-contact.
Correct.
I tore my ACL non-contact. Pretty much everybody, it's a plant. Like, go back to the last year, Kyler Murray. What did he do? He planted hard outside the pocket. Bam, it pops. Like, that doesn't happen inside the pocket. That only happens when you're running around scrambling. And then when you do get hit, and it's not necessarily just the hit; it's the four guys that pile on top of you. Right? I mean, it's like Mahomes dislocated his kneecap on a quarterback sneak.
Yeah,
it's just the overall wear and tear. But this is what I was going to tell you that I hadn't thought about until you and I talked about it. Like John and I have had this conversation. I don't know how sustainable this is. We're going to find out because it was kind of new, right? It was a new thing when Lamar really kind of broke on the scene in 2018 and then in 2019. But I wonder if Lamar wonders if it's sustainable. That's why he doesn't want to sign a short-term deal. Like, hey, man, I've gotten hurt the last 2 years. I've missed 10 games, in parts of other games. I've missed 34% of the snaps over the last 2 years. How sustainable is the offense that we run right now?
It's not, though, Mark. There's not a high ceiling for dual threat. Name me a guy that's played 12, 13 years that's a dual threat guy that runs the way that Kaepernick, RG3. I mean, go down.
I worry. Hey, man, I worry about Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, too. I think
Josh
Allen get a better running game.
Right. Josh Allen is getting 700, 750 yards. Now, the difference is Josh Allen is legit 6'5", 255. Like, Josh Allen.
17.
Yeah, he's a big-ass man. But, I picked up the ball. I gave up a sack in a preseason game my rookie year. I was playing center. They moved me to guard, and they just said, "Hey, go out and play guard." It was one of my first snaps at guard. I think it was Al Noga. I don't even think I touched him, and literally it blew by me like I was standing still. And Bill Kinney was playing quarterback. He hit Bill Kinney in the ribs. Ball popped up. I caught it, and I was covering kickoffs too at the time as an offensive lineman. Like, I could run.
Yeah. Were you really trying to make the team?
Yeah. I pick up the ball and I take off, and I just thought, like, dude, I think I'm going to score, right? I'm like 30, 40 yards out. I'm going to score. Man, I took about 3 steps, and I swear to God, they were bringing guys off the sideline to hit me. Like, I just got peppered. And I was like, some bitch, these guys are serious.
Hey, Mark, before I get you out of here, I want to ask you one last, sneak one in here. Because I think the Eagles could possibly get an offensive lineman, potentially at 10, or maybe trade down to get Paris Johnson or the kid from Northwestern. And to me, I was fortunate to have played against Munchak, Russ Grimm, and Bruce Matthews. And to me, the athleticism of those dudes, especially Munchak and Matthews, you talk about feet, picking your feet up in traffic. I mean, you could play all up and down the line of scrimmage. What for you is truly the one thing you spot when you see a guy that's a great offensive lineman? I mean, this guy Lane Johnson that they have in Philly, I mean, I guess he was like a quarterback or a tight end or something. He played another position. So, I mean, Mark, is it just the athletic? Does it start there on what you look at with a guy and how he moves his feet, how he gets back, how calm he is? What is that one thing, or is there one thing that you see in an old lineman that you go, that kid's going to be a great one?
I always look. There's two things I look at: feet and hands. If you got great feet, if you got great feet,
what if you're aggressive, Mark, and you lunge and you're a lunger, and because you can grab hands,
right?
Pull guys around.
Well, I always
part of it too.
Yeah, and understanding how to strike. You got to understand how to strike guys. The problem is with great strikers, and I consider myself a great striker. You've got to let the ground close a little bit on you, which is uncomfortable, right? I got to let you get closer to me because I can't punch. If I punch out, I get on my toes. You got to punch up. And so when you punch up, your hand is it's right in front of your body. So you actually have to let that space close a little bit. So that's an uncomfortable feeling, and that just takes reps and timing. But if you take great angles, you funnel guys, you've got great feet, and you've got great hands, size of the player, like being 340 or what, that doesn't mean shit to me. You can either you create leverage through great technique. You either have great technique and you create leverage, or you can't. And that
guy Don Mosbar was a beanpole, but he had great feet. His hands.
Yeah.
I mean, Loudermilk was another good one. Russ had great patience and big hands. I thought he was aggressive at times, and he punched out at you.
Yeah.
And he lunged. He was a little bit of a lunger, but still he was so good at what he did. I thought Mark May was really another one of those kind of guys. You played with a ton of those dudes too, and really some great – the lines you played in Washington and Denver, I mean, were you coached by Gibb?
Yeah, Alex Gibbs was my
shit. So you were taught that zone blocking.
Right. Well, I was Alex Gibbs in Denver, but I had Joe Bugle in Washington and Jim Hannafin. I have legit. I played for 3 what should be Hall of Fame O-line coaches. So guys that were and guys that were meticulous in preparation and study and understanding what a defense is trying to do, and just all the stuff that really sets you apart. Like, I talk to teams right now. I've consulted for a few teams over the years, and I was talking to a team about depth of set. Like, I knew the depth and the timing of every throw in our offense based on the route combination called. And so, and
I never thought about that. If it was a short pass in the middle to the tight end, that's probably going to be more of a short step or a short set for you versus a long set.
Right. The three-step drops are all called 3-step drops. So on those you can be aggressive. But I wanted to know the difference between a 5-step that has a hitch or two and a 5-step where it's out right now, a 7-step. Like, if I'm getting a 7-step that's going to take some time, man, I'm going to be way less aggressive. If I get a 5-step that has the potential of a hitch or two, I'm going to be a little bit less aggressive. If I get a 5-step that I know is out right now, like this 5-step, this is all go. But like anything that says all go is a 5-step drop where the ball's out right now. I'll treat that like a 3-step drop, and I'll actually run block you on a 5-step drop. And you know what you have to do? All of a sudden, you got to stop and defend the run, and then you're like, oh, shit, they're throwing it. Well,
we just lost Mark there a little bit there. Hopefully we can get him back here because he was in the middle of something really great. And I would like to wrap it up with him here, too, because I know we hey, here he is right here. Hey, Mark, please finish the point.
So I just won by the set I took.
Yeah.
So for you to pass rush me and get to my quarterback, if you beat me clean, Dan, it's about 1.6 to 1.7 seconds to get to the quarterback and get a sack. So if I get a 5-step drop, especially in gun, that's an all go where the ball is out, I know the ball is out in 1.4, 1.5 seconds, 1.6, under 2. Shit, if I upkick you, I still run.
Yeah.
If I even touch you and you have to reestablish your pass rush, you're never going to get to the quarterback before the ball's gone.
It's a win.
So I want to know that, I always tell teams, like, it's very imperative to me. It was as a player, it was, and as I'm helping certain teams out, to take what I always say is take the passive out of pass protection. How can you as a play caller and how can you as a coach help us perform as pass protectors? So can I take a game plan where we know we're going to throw it 35 times, but with bubble screens and with 5-step drops where the ball is gone and I can be ultra aggressive and 3-step drops and some of these other things, can I take those 35 reps? Can I take that down to 12 times where I have to hold up? Because if you can get me down to 15 to 12 times, if I can't hold up, then I suck. Right?
That just shows you, and I don't think people understand that, Mark, just sitting there watching the game. See, this was my failure, Mark. This was my failure, what you're talking about and why guys like you played with such great energy and such a great career. I think you're borderline Hall of Fame type of player. And I'll say this to you, man. I mean, the studying, the nuances. I tell people I benched 600 pounds, Mark, when I was at Miami. Me and Kevin Fagan. We were 600-pound benchers. But when you get to the NFL, everyone's a 600-pound bencher. Right. Everyone runs 4.8s. Everyone's a great athlete. But really, man, it comes down to technique. The NFL is a game of angles, not power. It's a game of angles. And if you get that, college game, do you agree, Mark, is power. You can overpower people and out-talent them. But when you get to the NFL, man, Mark, I go up to Green Bay with Lindy and Fonnie's team, and I'm like, oh, this team sucks, man. Look at their record. Man, I got into that game. I'm sitting there, and I'm going against Rich Moran and them guys, and I'm sitting there going, holy shit, this is really hard. I mean, these guys, I mean, the difference between being 10-6 back then and 6-10, I say was 20 plays a game. I used to tell people that 20 plays probably separates those type of teams. And the teams that can make those 20 plays, those are the difference. It's not that far off, is it, Mark, between the good and the bad?
No, all the talent's all there. And it's where, like, that's where, especially D linemen, it's where D linemen come in and really struggle is when you play at a big school and you're a stud, you just physically, you dominate pretty much everybody you go against. So why do I need to develop a secondary move? Why do I need to study? Why I'm physically more gifted than everybody else.
Putting my left hand down. Get this, Mark. Get this. I never had. Me and Jerome Brown played next to each other at UM, and I was like this. You know, Butch Davis came to me one day and goes, "Hey, you should work on putting your left hand down." And I was like, "Why? I'm killing Oklahoma, FSU, Penn State.
Right.
I'm killing them." I got to the NFL. Hey, Sills, can you play right tackle? Shit, people don't realize it. Putting your left hand down versus playing right guard, playing left guard, different feet, different angles, different. Yeah. It's a completely different thing. And Mark, when I got to the NFL, can I put my left hand down? I go, holy shit, man, this is a whole different world over here. And I'm like, man, I wish I had worked harder at putting my left hand down because that would have made me, like you said, running down kicks.
Yeah.
Doing whatever it took to stay in the league. That's you playing at a small school probably helped you more than it hurt you.
Yeah, well, it did. But, you know, funny thing, you mentioned it because I played at a small school. I played defense my whole career. I didn't move to offense until my last year.
See, that's why too, Mark. That's why, again, man, that's another reason why you were athletic is because you were a defensive guy. You probably had to learn how to not be so aggressive.
Well, there was that, but there was also the understanding of what you guys are doing over there. So, like you could smell things. For me, I could always that dude shouldn't. You know, this is a 25 front, and that will linebacker should not be where he's lined up to take away. We're in a slot formation. He's lined up not to play where he's supposed to be playing. He's lined up. He's cheating to take away the slant.
Yes.
Meaning this safety, I know this safety's rolling down from 12. He's just waiting to disguise. So you start to look at things differently. You're like, dude, I'm not going to go chase a will linebacker when like my slot guy, if we're running away, my slot guy will pick him up. I'll just go after the safety instead. I'll exchange responsibilities because those two, I know they're exchanging responsibility. You start to see that stuff. and you've got a better understanding of how the game works when you've played multiple positions. But I will tell you this, and then I got to roll because I got to go pick up my grandkids from school.
Hey, dude,
but
you've given us a class
well,
lesson today.
okay,
Thank you.
but I played. I went out and played guard my last year, and I played strong guard, weak guard. So we flip flop based on I was the strong guard. So sometimes I play. Most of the time I play right guard, but sometimes I play left guard. But I played everything out of a right-handed stance. And then I got moved from Washington. I played right guard for 6 years. Then they moved me to left guard when I got to Denver. And I could not get in a left-handed stance for the life of me. And I tried and tried. I couldn't do it. I was like, I can't play this way. So I played out of a right-handed stance, and it really bothered me until there were certain guys I would study when I was a player because they were damn good players. And you mentioned Bruce Matthews earlier. Bruce Matthews and Steve Wisniewski were guys I go like, hey man, I'm playing Cortez Kennedy, or I'm playing whoever. It will get me 2 games of Matthews, give me 2 games of Wisniewski. I want to see how these guys set this particular player, right? I'm playing Sapp. I want to see how they set him. I'm always get these 2 guys, and it was my first year in Denver. It was my 6th year in the NFL, and I was like, or 7th year in the NFL. I was like, oh shoot, Bruce Matthews is the best that's ever played the game, or one of the best that's ever played the game. He plays left guard out of a right-handed stance, and so does Wisniewski. If it's good enough for those guys, it's good enough for me. And I never thought about it again. I was like, screw it, I'm just staying in a right-handed stance.
Dude, you have been so generous with your time today, man. Thank you so much, Mark.
Oh, always a pleasure, buddy.
Great. Hey, by the way, tell people how to get a hold of you on your podcast one more time, please.
Yeah, it's called The Stinking Truth. You can find us on YouTube, obviously everywhere you download podcasts, whatever, the Spotify and all that stuff. But SoundCloud or whatever it is, Apple. But I'm doing it every couple days a week on YouTube as well, and really, really kind of enjoying it. And it's a quick 30-minute listen 2 times a week with my radio partner here in Denver, and it's good stuff. So check it out.
You bet. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You got it, Dan.
Brother.
Take care, brother. Later.
You got it. That is Mark Schlereth. FS1 does radio also in Denver. Gave us a full hour almost, didn't he, Tone? Really great stuff. I appreciate him doing that for us. I asked him for 12 minutes. The guy gave me an hour. You see, Big Sills kind of wheels you in a little bit here. Boy, do I have a ton of stuff to hit on from that interview. And I'm going to throw it out at you about Jalen Hurts here. And hey, by the way, that's one of Tone's favorite analysts and favorite NFL guys is Sting, 3-time Super Bowl champion. What an absolutely fabulous hour he spent with us. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show. Hour 2 coming up.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Man, that was awesome with Mark Schlereth. Full hour almost, right? I see everybody's on Twitter now crying because they lost their verified check. Really? I don't care. I could care. I had one. I could care less. But what you'll get is you'll get media dudes moaning and bitching about Elon Musk. I know who Big Sills is. I don't need a check to prove it. That shit, they gave that to me. It'd be a cold day in hell before I pay to validate who I am. I don't need a check to tell people who Big Sills is. So, I mean, I think it's classic. You should see the whining and crying going on. You know why? The people that are on Twitter, most of them are nobodies. And that little check kind of gives them a life. And the people that are going to complain that don't have or had the check that don't anymore are people that have no life. And they're going to say Twitter's going to hell. No. Why? Because your identity's wrapped around that check? I think it's classically funny. You understand that Twitter's the outhouse wall of social media. A blue check. Elon Musk is brilliant. He created content today by taking everybody's, including The Rock, taking everybody's checks away, thinking that everyone's going to start. Dude, only the losers comment on that. My check got taken away. Dude, the people that are complaining on Twitter or wherever that are complaining about their blue check being taken away are the people that absolutely run to Twitter and have fake accounts and have burner accounts to rip up. It's all media people. That's why he did it. It's media people and politicians who moan and bitch and cry. I mean, those are people without identities. And the check gave them their identity. It's funny. Look, I get companies. JAKIB having one, cool, because you want to know where the company is. Me, I don't give a shit if I have one or not. Means nothing to me. You know who Big Sills is. You know who my account is. I don't give a shit if it has a check or an X. Sitting around talking about a check. Can you believe Twitter's going to hell? Why? Because you didn't validate one of you loser people, woke ass mother. Unbelievable. Okay? Unbelievable. Hey, anyway, great stuff with Stink. And I love the fact that he absolutely agrees with me that Bijan Robinson would be the guy to go into Philadelphia and even help Jalen Hurts even more. That, to me, is also a win. And let me throw this at you. Do you know what Bijan Robinson does in your passing game? How much do you think he improves the short passing game for Jalen? Think about this. He drops back. Devontae's not open. Goddard's hurt or he's covered. AJ's not open. BJ Robinson. Dude, a guy like Robinson helps your passing game probably more than your run game. Because the cast of fools that you have back there now can probably do an efficient job. Those dudes ain't helping your passing game. That dude's helping your pass. You understand? He's everything built. Here are the players in that draft. Here are the players in that draft that are worth the shit. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. And by the way, folks going like this, well, the interview up there with the Lions, I don't know if it was really good or bad. You think that guy is going to tip his hand or give you any insight whether or not he thought the interview was great or not? And some people are going like this, well, you really can't get a sense whether it went well or not. Well, he don't want you to know that. He doesn't want you to know that. Because he may take him. And why wouldn't you? He's the second best player in the draft. Dude, if Detroit doesn't take him, there's a phenomenal opportunity that guy could land on 10, and I would not wait 1 second. If Jalen Carter's at 10, I would not wait 1 second. Okay? 1 second to sit there and not draft that guy. Robinson helps your pass. Bijan Robinson helps your passing game more than he helps your running game. And he's an elite runner. This is Marshall Faulk. Hey, the guys in Philly, I don't want to draft Marshall Faulk. I'll take a guy in the 8th round. Oh, wait, we don't have 8 rounds anymore. That was back at Big Sills Day when we had 12. I'll take a running back in the 5th round. If you're going to take a running back, why not take the best running back? So wait a minute. Listen what you're going to do. You have a chance potentially to take an A student, but you want to hire a C student. Yeah. Why? Because I don't value that player, and I don't value the position, but I value the player. Oh, I see. I disagree with any idiot who's a draft analyst that says, I value the need. How many times do you have to be told, don't overdraft Jordan Davis? You overdrafted him. He's a nose guard. He's not a 3 technique. He'll never be a 3 technique. Sills, watch the Eagles press conference from today. And I think they will him listen to what Howie says. He dodged the question, but said enough. Myles Murphy, the 4th best edge rusher. You want to take him at 10, but not the 4th best player in the draft. Okay. Yeah. Dude, you're not in a rebuild. You're not in a rebuild. You're in a position to win the freaking Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. You're in a moment here to win it. You got dogs. Look, I'm not going to disrespect the running backs, but they're nobodies. They're nobodies. On an offense who is elite everywhere. Do you understand? Listen to where I'm going here. 2 elite wideouts, 2 elite offensive tackles, an elite left guard, an elite center. You spent a 2nd rounder on the right guard / center. You got a quarterback you just gave $255 million to. You got a tight end you're paying $15 million. And then you got a 2-cent running game because we don't value the position. You don't run a Kansas City offense. You don't run that offense. Well, look at what Mahomes did with Freddie Pacheco. That's Ali's fight doctor, by the way. That's what I think of Freddie Pacheco. That was Ali's fight doctor. They got a guy in the 7th round. That guy don't need much, does he? He beats you with Juju Smith-Schuster. Jalen Hurts is not beating you with Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster. If he's the number 1 wideout on the Eagles, Jalen's in trouble. In Kansas City with Andy Reid? You got the best passer in the game and a guy who I think has changed the game as much as Marino did when he came in. Okay? Dude, if you want trade, go, like I said, trade with New England. That's the conversation and rumor going around. Trade with New England at 10-14, get your boy there. You just got to be ahead of Dallas. Because Dallas is going to take that kid. If Dallas can trade up, they're going, why wouldn't they? They drafted, look at what Jerry Jones's history is. The Eagles have no history of this. The Cowboys do. They'll take Emmett in the first. I think they took a kid from Arkansas in the first, didn't they, Yell? What was that kid's name from Arkansas? Didn't they take him in the first? Then they took Zeke in the first. Jerry wants to replicate and duplicate what he had with the triplets back in the 80s and 90s. He wants to duplicate that. Was McFadden a first rounder at Arkansas? I thought he was. He may have been a second. I don't know. Darren McFadden may have been a second rounder, but they draft running backs high there. So if Robinson's there, and now they just jettison Zeke. Why do you think they jettison Zeke? They jettison Zeke because they want this kid. I'm saying Howie will take Bijan. He said it without saying it. Just watch it later. I will. So wait a minute. Darren McFadden was a first-round draft choice out of Arkansas. Zeke was a first-round draft choice out of Arkansas or out of Ohio State. And Emmett was a first-rounder out of Florida. This guy's going to draft a first-round running back if he's there. Kenny G. He is a stud. Plays a mean flute. Dude, Kenny G plays a mean flute. That Kenny G, man, he is one hell of a flute player. Man. Kenny G can play a flute, dude. Sills thinks Jalen is not Mahomes. Absolutely the furthest thing from Mahomes. He's nowhere near Mahomes. Yeah, no, of course. He's Mahomes. You like the flute, Dan? No, I'm more of a trombone guy. I'm more of a trombone. Poor Elliot Spitzer Shore. Pauly Shore lost his check mark. Believe me, all them guys over at the WIP will be crying like babies later on. My check's gone. Hey. Oh, my God. I lost my check. Oh, man. Sills plays a mean flute. I played the trumpet, Sills. I actually like the trumpet, man. That's good stuff. All right. Now, this is going to get a little bit salty for you. And I got to tell you, oh, boy, this is going to be fun. I'm going to tell you, I think we're going to get into a little bit of back and forth here. Hey, and by the way, I'm not arguing with anybody over Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. You can paste and swipe and tag and do whatever and like lip paste it, put it on a T-shirt, on a hat, do whatever you want. I'm not ever comparing that dude to that guy in Kansas City. That ain't happening. Okay? That ain't happening. That guy's resume already is sick. Win something first. Guy's got an NFC title to his name. Put some of the shit up there. And by the way, put some of the stuff up that Lamar has. Then we'll talk. All right. Here's the first topic. Oh, God. This is going to get ugly. Oh, should I do it? We've had such a good day, too. Should I do it? Uh-oh. Tyler goes, uh-oh. Is this going to be leading the witness? Uh-oh. What does Lamar have? Okay, Bruce, let's go to it. If you had to start your football team between Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, who would you take? And who would you start it with? And as I give the intel here, this will help you in your decision making, and then you'll be able to read and watch what people say with their idiot comments. Jalen Hurts has Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, had Miles Sanders, 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, and the number one ranked offensive line according to Pro Football Focus. He was a second-team All-Pro, and he is 24 years of age. His personal accomplishments are a Pro Bowl, second-team All-Pro. Those are his personal accomplishments. Here's Lamar Jackson. He throws to Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay. I think that's how you say his name. Mark Andrew, great player. Lamar's the top running back last year in Baltimore. And the second was J.K. Robbins. And by the way, I was actually shocked that the Ravens had the second-ranked offensive line according to Pro Football Focus. Okay? Excuse me, Just Mike. An NFC championship is not an individual achievement. That's a team award. And here's what Lamar has done at the age of 26. He just turned it. Unanimous MVP. First team All-Pro in the AFC. That means he was a first-team All-Pro over Mahomes. Two-time Pro Bowler. Led the NFL in passing touchdowns. And I threw the Heisman in there because he's done it at every level. And he just turned 26. He's a year and a half older. Who would you start your football team with? With that junkyard full of players? Or with Jalen's team? So let me ask you this. How far do you think Jalen could take that Baltimore team? Hey, Yale. How far do you think Jalen Hurts could take that Baltimore Ravens team? In the AFC. How far? How far do you think Jalen could take that Ravens team? Super Bowl. Really? Who knows? I'd rather have Hurts. Why? He hasn't done shit yet. So wait a minute. If you're going to put a value on a player, you think Jalen Hurts is more valuable and you would pay him more than Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson has absolutely put a resume together that rivals Mahomes' resume personally. He's done more than Burrow. Super Bowl contender. Well, that's an organizational thing. They were Super Bowl contenders with Carson Wentz. That's where you lose me on that one, Yale. The Eagles were Super Bowl contenders with Carson Wentz. Mr. Personality. You were Super Bowl contenders with Carson Wentz. So you lost me on that one. Carson Wentz has an NFC Championship 2 ring. He also has a Super Bowl ring. Okay, I mean, they were contenders with him. Lamar may never play again. Highly unlikely. that that's true. Jalen would take that shitbox offense to the Super Bowl. Never happened. Never happened. Never happened. You had to go buy AJ. What are you talking about, dog? Hey, look what the Ravens did They went out and they bought a broken down OBJ. Good look at the weapons the Ravens drafted for Lamar. Hurts makes Ravens a wild card team. In the AFC, doubtful. Dual threat. Carson Wentz wasn't a bad player either. He just fell apart personally. Oh, really? He finished second in the MVP too, like your boy did. Jackson is getting Kaepernicked. Could be some truth to that. Could be something to that. If Jalen was in Baltimore, they would have had the number one O-line. I'm actually shocked Baltimore's too. All kidding aside. I'm actually shocked Baltimore. I'm pretty shocked, dude. I didn't realize Baltimore was that good in the O-line. That kind of is an indictment on him a little bit. Look, man. So wait a minute. So you're blaming all the problem. So Yale and all you guys are blaming all the problems of Baltimore in this negotiations on Lamar Jackson? Are you kidding? So you think this is a 100% issue with Lamar Jackson and not the way the Ravens have handled themselves? Hurts is way more stable? Where did that come from? Why would you make an assessment of that and give the Baltimore Ravens the benefit of the doubt when they had 3 years to get this deal done too? Why are they not in the conversation of effing this thing up too? Dude, man, I mean, I got what you're saying. Yeah, I'm just, the Ravens are accountable here too, dude. Well, this guy needs an agent. Yeah, Roquan Smith didn't, but he does. Why? Because he's what? A black quarterback? That's a racist comment. To say that Jalen or Lamar Jackson needs an agent, I think is racist. You have every right to F up your life or F up a situation. You have every right to succeed and fail. So the linebacker's smarter than the quarterback? Boy, that is really, I believe, over the line a racist comment. Both are to blame. Dirty, I agree. John, my goal is to take over the entire department at work because my management team is comparable to the Browns. Time to drop my managers off at the airport. I think you want to drop them off somewhere else, John. Okay, I think you want to drop them off somewhere else with that comment. Jalen seems really mature. Why? Lamar Jackson doesn't? How Lamar Jackson? Hey, how would you like to be Lamar Jackson when half the league wanted you to do sprints so you could find out whether or not you could play wide receiver? Talk about that kind of shit. Jalen Hurts had his job taken away. How about being treated like how about being treated like the old 1970s quarterback when you came out of Louisville? Well, this guy can't play quarterback. Let's see if he can run 40s. Let's see if he can run sprints. Let's see if he can run routes. Can you have that happen just a few years ago? You know how everybody says, hey, it's really great to see that the black quarterback is where he is today? All you have to do is go back to the combines. You know that Lamar Jackson, do you know why I know him? Do you know why I know him? Okay, there's a guy that used to be a Miami Hurricane wide receiver who recruited him for Louisville and was the wide receiver coach. And he recruited him. His name is Thomas. He's on my Twitter page, and he's a Hurricane. He's one of my boys. Okay? And he goes, Sills, this guy, he played for the Dolphins. He was a wide receiver. And he goes, Sills, this guy is just, we talked the other night about Lamar. He goes, can you imagine being told at the combines, can you run a couple routes for us too, by the way, so that maybe teams get a look at you at wide receiver because you may not be an NFL quarterback. Lamar refused to run. He didn't run his 40 at the combines. He wouldn't run a 40 at the combines because he thought it was racist, and it was. And we all told him it was. Don't run. Luther Campbell and everyone were telling him, don't run those 40s. They'll label you there like Bill Scumbag Polian did. Don't do that. Don't. We told him. Lamar Thomas is his name. Played wide receiver. Okay? Lamar is a coach, I think, at Kentucky now. I'm asking him about Will Levis. I think he's a wide receiver coach at Kentucky. But I spoke to him the other night. By the way, I posted something on Twitter about Lamar. Lamar back channeled me and DM'd me. He goes, Sills, thanks for getting my back. I go, I got your back always, Lamar. I will always have a South Florida kid's back. The most racist thing you can ever have is have a team. I'm not going to say the team because I actually like some of the people in the team. Say this to you. Hey, listen, can you run a couple pass routes? Lamar looked at his mom who went to the combines and some people that showed up there with him and said, I'm not running for anybody. He refused to run 40 yards. And he's a 4.5 guy, 4.4 guy. It's offensive. It's offensive. I don't see anybody asking Anthony Richardson to run 40s. Is anybody at the combines asking Anthony Richardson or any of these other guys to run 40s? Why is it always the black quarterback you ask to run 40s? Ask Trevor Lawrence to run a 40? Or even Tebow? Did you ever ask those guys? No. Dude, when they say that the black quarterback's come a long way, has he? You still ask the question, hey, can you run some wide receiver routes? You don't ask white guys to do that. You don't ask white guys to do that. Lynx goes, Tebow forced to play tight end. Yeah, 10 years after the fact. 10 years after the fact. Steve, look at Steve here. Steve, we're out here working and people feeling sorry for a dude turning down that kind of money. It's not about money with him. It's about respect. And dude, don't ever look at a guy's money and what he makes. That's not the character of a man, how much money he makes. Why don't you apply that to Lamar Jackson like you do Jalen Hurts? You think that $250 million contract defines Jalen Hurts? Why would you think it would define Lamar Jackson? That contract in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania with the Philadelphia Eagles does not give you a fair representation of who. If you told me, define Jalen Hurts, the contract would be the last freaking thing. Define the money that Lamar Jackson wants. If you know the guy, that has nothing to do with it. Lamar runs a 4.3. I don't need to run 40s. Okay? Lamar reminds me of Cam Newton. Cam Newton's an MVP. Cam Newton took his team to a Super Bowl too. Hurts reminds me of Roger Staubach or Tarkington. Never. Dude, are you trying to come up with the notion that Jalen Hurts is more accomplished than Cam Newton? You're out of your mind. He was an MVP. He took his team to a Super Bowl too. He played 12 years. Bro, before you start barking all that shit, Cam Newton's had a great career. Cam Newton lived up to being a number one draft choice. How many quarterbacks do you see drafted every year that never live up to that? He lived up to it and lost. Your guy lost too. Your guy helped the loss. Scoop and score, baby. Scoop and score. Talking about Jalen Hurts versus Cam Newton. Do something first. Talking about Cam. He never won the big one. Neither did your guy. Telling his team first and winning. No one's saying he's not. No one's saying he's not. Well, there you. What's up, Will? And Cam's got like 70 career rushing touchdowns and such. Dude, the problem with Cam Newton, he was the Shaquille O'Neal factor. Do you know what the Shaquille O'Neal factor is? They never knew how to legislate penalties against him, and referees never knew how to take care of him. Jalen Hurts is benefiting because Cam took a beating. And most of the dual threat guys taking beatings. You want to protect those guys more now. It was always about protecting the guys that were the drop back, and always looking at the referees looked at guys like Jalen and Cam. Once you took off and left the pocket, you were a running back. And they basically gave you running back rules. Now, they're more protective because they're now becoming the faces of the league, and there's more of these guys bursting on the scene in the league. You're just not going to let Josh Allen take a beating. If you don't let Josh Allen take a beating, you can't let Jalen Hurts take a beating, because then you're going to have a conversation about legislating versus different dudes, and we're going to go into a different angle there, and the league doesn't want to go there. Josh Allen, I am grateful Josh Allen is a dual threat guy in a way. Because if you protect him, you got to protect the guy in Philadelphia and the guy in Baltimore. You see, the problem with the dual threat guy, most of them were black. So the refs weren't going to take care of them. Now that you have some dual threat white guys, do you notice they are taking care of them? You don't think that's by coincidence, do you? Because what was the conversation always in the past? Guy like Jalen. Am I right, Tone? Man, I'll tell you what, that Jalen Hurts, man, he is so athletic. Man, and athletic always meant to me it was a sign of talking about a black quarterback versus a guy. That guy is so smart. That guy, that's why I always start my conversation off with Jalen Hurts, that I think he's brilliant, sees the game great. He's smarter than Josh Allen. To me, Jalen Hurts, his game is in his brains and in his head. The best part of Jalen Hurts is above his shoulders. And I mean that. I think the best part of Jalen Hurts' football is above his shoulders, not his legs. God put his hand on Jalen Hurts' shoulder and left it there a little longer than normal, than most of us, and gave him a skill set. But he also gave him massive intelligence to see the game clearer. Those are the guys that you want on a football team and to be the face of your franchise. The guys that see the game in a slow motion. When you turn on the film and you watch it, everyone else is in slow motion but him. Did you hear Stink and how Stink was talking in the last hour? Stink was talking in the last hour and talking about nuances of steps, seconds, drops, 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, 9-step. The guys who studied the game, the best part of Stink's game was for him above his shoulders. Okay? And here's JM. Sills was not saying this last year, nor was anybody, including your general manager. You're damn right I wasn't. Nor was anyone else, JM. You did not get 2 first-round draft choices this year to draft a safety. You had every intention of going into this draft and covering your ass, CYA, if Hurts failed. Don't change the script. They did not make moves last year to get 2 ones, to get a safety and Myles Murphy. They made a move to get a quarterback. Stink said he'd take Jalen over Lamar. Okay. I would probably take I would probably take a coconut cream custard over a cherry pie too. Okay? Shit, 90% of you have flip-flopped on Wentz. Oh, no, but I never thought Wentz was the guy. You're a freaking liar. And most of you that will say that are liars. I knew Jalen would be a superstar, second team all-pro quarterback because that's why the Eagles draft. No, they did not. They did not draft him to be the starter in Philadelphia. That is a bull-faced lie. It's as bad as Polian saying that he had a first-round grade on Tom Brady, who was taken in the 6th round. MFK goes, chill, Sills. Why? You don't like what do you don't like the way Italians act? I love sports, dude. I have passion and emotion in what I do. It's genuine. Relax. Dude, I relax when I got to pay a bill. Okay? He was just insurance. Absolutely. Tom Brady, as I said yesterday, was drafted for insurance for Drew Bledsoe. So guess what? 2 insurance policies turned out to be worth their weight in gold. That's a great story. Don't dismiss it. Don't try to change people's histories. You got lucky on Hurts. The Patriots got lucky on Brady. Seattle got lucky on Wilson. The 49ers got lucky on Montana. Bledsoe was good. He was franchise. Franchise, as I told you yesterday, they gave him a $117 million contract the year before and $18 million signing bonus. Then they turned around and traded him in the division to the Bills. That's how much they thought of Brady. Hey, Bills gave him the best deal. They traded him in. How many people would trade a guy who you just cut a $117 million contract with, trade him inside the division so you could compete against him, and Brady still whipped his ass? Dude, that's a GOAT story. And see, that's one of the underlining Tom Brady stories. Dude, they traded the guy who he was supposed to back up in the division, and Brady whipped his ass still. Dude, that's great. It's an insane story. Okay? Now you look for insurance when you're good. So, hey, here's what I would say, Mike. And I think if you learned anything from Tom Brady and you learned anything from Jalen Hurts, if you're the Eagles, when you draft a quarterback, you never know when you land on Jason Kelce in the 6th round. Wouldn't you take Hendon Hooker if he's available in the 3rd round or 4th round? Wouldn't you take him? I might draft that guy. I mean, I think the Giants are going to take him. Wouldn't you take Hendon Hooker? Okay? Wouldn't you? Okay? Hey, Casby, man, you don't have to be here. Nobody invited you. You don't have to. I saw some of the shit you put on my Twitter. You don't have to be here, dude. And I never do that, but you don't have to. You're one of the outhouse guys that writes shit on the wall. You don't have to be here. Brady realized his chance and didn't let it go. Jalen Hurts. Don't you think, Pickin'? Jalen Hurts realized his moment too. And he's not letting it go. Absolutely. At 100%. Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely. Dude, we got still a ton of stuff. Stink was so cool. Wasn't he, Tone? He was so cool to give us an hour. I only wanted like 12 or 13 minutes of his time. Okay? Philadelphia goes, Sileo, are you a Cowboy fan? Absolutely not. Do I like the Joneses? Yeah. I told you this before, dude. I never said I was an Eagle fan. I like their fans, and I'll continue to root for their fans because I like you guys. Can I ask, why would people rather reach or overdraft rather than take a running back? We've had the best draft coverage of anyone on JAKIB Cells. Hey, Anton, I don't get where any analyst goes, I'll take the need versus the player. That's overdrafting. That is the, anytime you hear an analyst say this, I would rather take the need than the better player. That's the prime example of how you overdraft. So you would rather take the 8th best defensive tackle versus the 2nd best player. And know this, you know why the Eagles don't overdraft the O-line or D-line? Why don't you think they do that? Why do you think? Because you know why? They're great at it. And they constantly draft that position. Whether they need it or not, they draft it. They continue to draft that position over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? Over and over and over again. They continue to draft that position. Sometimes they don't have a need there. Okay? That's like saying, take Nolan Smith or Van Ness over Bijan. It's totally dumb. So you're going to take a gamble on a guy who couldn't start at Iowa and in the Big Ten to start with the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East, where you have to stop the run. Washington runs the ball. New York runs the ball. Dallas wants to run the ball. You want to draft a guy who doesn't fit the division. Why would you draft a guy who can't play the run in a division that runs the ball? Number one. Saquon Barkley's in this division. Antonio Gibson's in this division. Okay? Dallas is going to get an elite back because that's who they are. Philadelphia runs the ball. Philly's offense is a dominant at the point of attack offense. But you're going to draft a guy. Listen to those idiots who say Lucas Van Ness. You would draft a guy who can't play the run in a division that's built on the run. That's not drafting to beat your competitors. Look what's in it. Chase Young. He's kind of a run-stopping pass rusher. Micah Parsons. He's a run-stopping pass rusher. Kayvon Thibodeau. Same. All these guys have the same traits. Hassan is the lesser of those guys, but he's the better pass rusher of those guys. Will Anderson would be a perfect fit in the NFC East. Build your team to win the division first. Because if you win the division, you win the conference. Gives a shit about San Francisco. Nobody cares about San Francisco. Nobody. I'll see you down the road. I'll see you in the NFC title game. We'll get there again. I got to worry about beating Dallas, New York, and Washington. And then after that, the chips fall where they may. And if I get home field, wonderful. Don't sleep on Detroit. I am not drafting to beat Detroit. I'm drafting to beat Dallas, Washington, and New York. You start worrying and building your team to beat the Cardinals. That's why teams get their asses kicked in the draft every year. Well, we got to beat the Eagles, and you're the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks don't operate like that. because the Seahawks get it. Why did Belichick dominate the NFL? Because he dominated a weak-ass AFC East. The reign over the AFC East in the Brady era was essential to the run of the 6 Super Bowls for that dynasty. Can you imagine this? Think about this for a moment here. Tone, check it out. If Saban had chose right, and if Saban had chose Breeze instead of Dante Culpepper, that whole story may have been different in the AFC East for Brady and Belichick. Because as it was, his time in Miami, Saban was 2-2 versus Belichick head-to-head when he was the head coach of the Dolphins. Think of how that could have changed the entire landscape of that Brady dynasty if they had chose Breeze instead of Dante Culpepper. Tone's like, one decision changes lives. One decision made Nick Saban go back to college. That one decision by Nick Saban led to his failure as an NFL head coach. One decision. And the reason why the Eagles have been the best team in the NFC since 2000, well, the Giants have more Super Bowl wins, but still I'd say more playoff wins and division titles and more appearances. The reason that they have, why? Because they're concerned about winning the East. They do a good job. There's clearly the New York Giants, ever since Jerry Reese and Tom Coughlin have left, have been a freaking train wreck. Washington has been a train wreck because of the owner. Dallas can't get out of their way. Anton says, unless it's Anderson, Wilson, Tyree Wilson, Carter Robinson, Skornowski, or Johnson, it would be an overdraft. Absolutely. Trade out of that pick. I'm not picking the 10th pick to pick a dude that's the 5th best edge rusher. That's the prime way you turn a guy. And by the way, I want to say this one thing about Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is not a bad football player. Okay? The Eagles just put expectations on him he won't live up to. He's going to be a good ball player. He'll never be a 3 technique, ever. The guy that's coming out this year is the 3 technique, Jalen Carter. He's the 3. That's a 3 technique. And for his size, it's incredibly impressive to watch his game film. Do me a favor. If you get some time, watch Jalen Carter's college game tape and then go back and watch Jordan Davis's game tape. And then all you got to do is just tell me what you think. It's night and day. It's night and day. It's not close. One guy's feet's better. And by the way, Jordan Davis is a fine athlete. He's just never lived up to his athleticism. And the Eagles overdrafted him at 13. He will never be Fletcher Cox. But he's going to be a 0 technique. And quite frankly, he's probably the highest drafted nose guard in NFL history. But that's all he's going to be. 4 sacks. And by the way, I've heard Barrett say this. His impact will be on the linebacking core. Okay, that's impact. That was Vince Wilfork's impact. I told you this on draft day. I think it's a good pick, but I think his ceiling's Vince Wilfork. I think if you get that out of him, I thought maybe Remember what I said? This is exactly what I said. Either Fletcher Cox or Vince Wilfork. And you're hoping he falls somewhere in the middle there. Well, he's going to be more down here. Where I told you, he's more of in the 20s. He's still a first rounder. You know, and when people go, well, remember the Syracusas and the Sam Adamses and all them, dude, those guys weren't 13th pick. Those guys weren't the 13th pick in the draft. Tony Siragusa was an undrafted free agent. And get this, he played with the Colts before he got to Baltimore. Tony Siragusa wasn't drafted. So to compare Tony Siragusa to Fletcher Cox or to Jordan Davis is a joke. Tony Siragusa was not drafted out of Pitt. So who was overdrafted? Mike says Davis is going to help just because he's not Cox doesn't make. I didn't say, obviously you didn't listen. Isn't Wolford in the talking of Hall of Fame? Yeah. His 3 Super Bowl rings will probably get him into conversation. I don't believe he makes it. He doesn't have enough Pro Bowls. I don't think he makes it. But I think because you had 3 Super Bowl rings, I think that kind of put, hey, quite frankly, there's not a player on the New England Patriots in the Dynasty that won Super Bowls that will go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the defensive side outside of Richard Seymour. And on the offensive side, the only other guy that won Super Bowls will be Gronk. No one else will make the Super Bowls. No one else will make the Hall of Fame. Where's Vita Veda picked? I don't know. Hey, did you hear what I said? Think about that. During the Brady time, Richard Seymour is the only player on that defensive side of the ball, okay, that they drafted that will go to the Hall, that is in the Hall of Fame. They basically built that defense through the draft, some free agents. They didn't pick up guys that were superstar players. Actually, Pete Carroll put guys like Bruschi and Vrabel on it. Vrabel and Bruschi were already there when Belichick showed up. Making it sound like he drafted them. He didn't. Pete Carroll did. Don't you forget, Carroll was the head coach of the Jets and then the Patriots, then went to Southern Cal before he went to Seattle. Forget that revised history, too. Everyone's always under the assumption that Carroll drafted. That Belichick drafted them. That's not true. Rodney Harrison was drafted by the Chargers. Okay, he was drafted by the Chargers. Junior Seau was drafted by the Chargers. Asante Samuel, maybe. Think of that, though. Brady's the only Hall of Famer outside of Gronkowski that will be in the Hall of Fame in a 19-year run. Do you know when they were winning Super Bowls, and I've said this to you guys, do you know that all their skilled guys, not one of them was a first rounder. Sony Michel, I think at the end, was a first rounder. But early on, they didn't win Super Bowls with first round picks. Edelman, Amendola, Welker. Deion Branch. Troy Brown, who was a dual player, was a defensive player, actually. They won because Brady was sensational. Ty Law. He was drafted in 95. He wasn't drafted by Belichick. Belichick hasn't been there since 95. Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. Belichick became the head football coach in 2000. He never drafted Ty Law. Come on, man. He never drafted Ty Law. Ty Law was there. Carroll drafted him. Randy Moss did not win a Super Bowl in New England. I got to take a timeout. We have another topic here on Jalen. This one here, I think you're going to enjoy. Okay? I do. Okay? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was in, I think that was the last year of Parcells, maybe 95. Or maybe he was in Cleveland by then. Look, UIO didn't hear what I said. That Belichick drafted. Belichick didn't draft Ty Law, dude. Holy cow. He was put on the team already. So was Brewski. So was Vrabel. Let me take a timeout. Hit the like button. We'll continue. We'll start up hour number 3.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
My name is Fran Sileo, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
What about Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes have a sellout? It's the first time in like over 2 decades that they have a sellout for the upcoming college football season. Good for Deion. I think he's going to own the Pac-12. I do. I think he's going to own it. Deion Sanders calls me. Sills, how'd you like to come and play with the Buffaloes and play for me? Coach Prime, I'm in. Yeah. I would love to. My comp today was coming out as Vita Veda, who was drafted 12th. My question to you is, was Vita Veda overdrafted? Probably. Yeah. He's not a pass rusher. You really think that but here, Marshall, this is what you're missing. The Buccaneers put a premium on linebacker play. Look who they've had play behind them. Look at the linebacker play they've had. Look at the linebacker play that the Eagles have had. The Eagles don't put a premium on linebackers. So when you have great linebacker play, and that's why you have Devin White and you have the other kid, and they put a premium on linebacker, the Buccaneers put a premium on linebackers. The Eagles don't put a premium on it. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to draft that guy and you're going to draft first-round draft choices at your inside linebackers, you're damn right he was worth it because you made the investment at the linebacker to pay off Vita Veda's work. If you draft Jordan Davis and you have a free agent from Chicago and an undersized Nakobe Dean, I don't know if that pays it off. Do you think it does? The Buccaneers make an investment in the draft at linebacker. The Eagles never do. Okay? I mean, again, that common sense there a little bit. Common sense. Okay? Here, let me finish up this Deion thing here. So the Colorado Buffaloes have Deion Sanders as their head coach. And the Auburn Tigers go out and get a coach who's had all kinds of issues in his past. What's the guy's name at Auburn? Who was going out and trolling for hookers on his credit card that the school gave him. Where was he, too? He was at Ole Miss. Hugh Freeze. So they hire Hugh Freeze, who was college football's version of Nick Pitino. Of Rick Pitino, this guy is the college football version. And so you hire that guy because you didn't want Deion Sanders, for whatever reason, to be the head coach of Auburn, recruiting against Nick Saban. Can you imagine what that war would have been like, that Auburn war between Alabama and Auburn if you had hired the right guy? Auburn was afraid. Whatever you want to call it, fear. I think it's fear. You didn't want to hire. You hired a guy who used the Ole Miss credit card to get hookers when he was recruiting kids. After he'd stop at a family's home and lie to them and tell them that I want your son to come and play for me and I'll treat him like he's my own son. He takes his credit card and goes 1-800 1-800 a good time. Meet me at the Motel 6. Hugh Freeze. Thank you. Yeah, my name is John Freeze. Okay? 1-800. Hey, 1-800 good time. And this guy's out lying to people in their homes going, hey, man, I want your son, I want him to come play here at Ole Miss. I'm going to treat him just like my kid. You're going to take my kid to like a whorehouse? Boy, that's something else, man. I mean, you talk about character. Way to go, Auburn. That's how you win, man. Screw character. Think Deion's got character? Oh, I do. So you hire Mr. White Guy who trolls for whores, lies to families, and you let Deion have to go to the soft-ass Pac-12. Solid. I'm not going to go too deep over the top with it, but we all know why Deion wasn't hired at Auburn. Good old boys. Can't have Deion Sanders coaching the good old boys. Probably maxed out the card only. No, come on, Quinn. You know you can't have Deion coaching the good old boys. You got to have Hugh Freeze coaching the good old boys. You know, he's got to go up in the neck of the woods where all them stills are. I don't know if I want Deion up there. I love Prime. He's my boy, man. You know? I know. All I know is this. Hey, Quinn, Ole Miss came recruiting me, and I was like this. This is when I was in high school. Ole Miss came recruiting me, and this is before they stopped that thing they did when they were recruiting. Hey, Yale. They come out with that Confederate flag out of the building, right, out of the tunnel. And my grandfather goes, "What's that?" And I go, I think they told me it's a battle flag. My grandfather goes, "That ain't a battle flag. That's a Confederate flag." He goes, "No, they told me." I forget who the coach was back then. He goes, "Oh, it's a battle flag." I go, my grandpa goes, "That ain't a battle flag." Son, are you dumb? They didn't bring them to the Miami Hurricanes. Why didn't they bring them to the Miami Hurricanes? We had other ways of getting you down there. All you had to do was go out on South Beach. Here, Weapon. hey, Weapon, here. Big Sills gets recruited to go to Notre Dame. This high in snow. So what was the guy's name? Who was the head coach? Who was the head coach of Wisconsin? Barry Alvarez. Barry Alvarez was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. And so I'm with him on my recruiting visit. And I'm with Barry Alvarez. Okay? And I got snow like this. I'm from Connecticut, so, you know, it's all good. Jamaica. Hey, so they're like, "So what do you think of Notre Dame?" I'm like, "Well, you know, you guys haven't won in a long time." He goes, "No, what do you mean we haven't won? We haven't won a national title since like the 70s. And well, I know interview from Miami Hurricanes. What are you talking about? Mario Cristobal's been on 3 times. Jimmy Johnson will be on next week. Dave Wannstedt was my DC at Miami. What are you talking about? I have Miami Hurricanes on all the – Michael Irvin's been on. What are you talking about, Weapon? I have to spread out all the Hurricanes. Hey, so I got this. Barry Alvarez goes, "So what do you think?" I go, "Where are the girls?" Well, they're at Mike Stonebreaker's, one of the greatest college football names of all time. I go, "Where's the girls?" "They're at St. Mary's." I go, "Excuse me?" They go, "They're at St. Mary's." I go, "Notre Dame doesn't have chicks here." And he goes, "No, they're at St. Mary's." And I go, "Excuse me, no chicks, no Big Sills." He goes, "What's your next recruiting trip?" I go, "University of Miami." I'm going to South Beach. Let's just say the sand, you could stand in sand a lot better than snow. There's no chicks at Notre Dame? No, they're at St. Mary's. They're right across the way. I'm like, Big Sills don't go to school with just dudes. That's not going to work. Chris Zorich is a great friend of mine. Just a great friend of mine. I love Chris Zorich. Hey, Miami U said my beach is better. Hey, when I got down there, Butch Davis goes like this. So where were you last? I go, Notre Dame. He goes, what'd you think? I go, well, a lot of snow and no chicks. And Butch goes, holy shit. I was like, yeah, no chicks and too much snow. That wasn't. Hollywood goes to Latina booty. Hey, dude. What'd you say? Mommy. I'm going to leave it there. Mommy. Dude, finest women in the world are in South Florida. I'll just say that. Okay. Whew. Man. Dude. Best looking women on the planet are in South Florida. I'm just saying. The Togo says you're a lunatic. I'm just like, yeah. I got down to Miami. All I kept, hey, Tone, I get to Miami. I go to a Burger King. Michael Irvin takes me to a Burger King. I go, what is that? He goes, what? I go, that. The one who's wrapping the hot hamburgers up. He's like, dude, what's wrong with you? I go, what is that? What is she? I go, you mean to tell me these women down here look like that and they work at Burger King? They must be everywhere. He's like, bro, this is South Florida. I was like, okay, yeah. Unbelievable, man. Let me get to the topic. Okay. Hey, by the way, you know how some of you will always do this. Hey, they throw that like internet trolling racist thing out. You should have seen Big Sills down. I don't know if I don't think you'd be there. Let's just say I don't think that. You see, you know why my friends laugh at you guys who say that shit? They laugh at you guys when you post that shit because they know who I was. Nothing. Dude, Big Sills is down in Overtown in Liberty City, hanging out with Luther Campbell, with inner city kids that need guidance because Jerome Brown brought me there. There were riots down there. You know what Jerome would tell me? Do you know what Jerome would tell me? He'd go, put your jersey on. I go, why? I'm Italian. He goes, dude, what do you think? They have some sort of Dakota ring on that they know you're Italian? And he's like, put your jersey on. Let them see the vowel. I'm like, what are you saying? Jerome would go, put the jersey on so they know who you are so they could see the vowel. I go, are you telling me? He goes, dude, the only reason you think if your name was McClanahan, I'm bringing you into Liberty City? Hilarious how we talk to one another. I could never talk like this on the radio, but this was the truth. Jerome would go like this. Do you actually think I'm bringing a dude named John McClanahan into Liberty City? You're lucky you got a vowel and you can run and you're not white. I'm like, I'm Italian. He goes, Italian guys ain't white, dude, because white guys don't run that fast. Oh, man. Dude, one of the greatest educations I ever had was playing on that team and in that organization. It was just the truly greatest time. Outside of my family, my growing up with my aunt, my grandparents, and my family that I have now, that was the greatest time of my life because it was the greatest education of my life. Being around so many different types of people, being in communities like that, there's nothing ever I could ever go back. And I talk about it a lot because I loved it and it was a great time in my life. Being around all those wonderful men, black, white, the moms. Dude, the black moms and Mr. Highsmith were the most frightening people I've ever been around. Dude, hey, I'm just telling you. I told you the story about Derwin Jones. Derwin Jones' mom, Jerome's sitting next to me. I told you the story about 2 weeks ago. Here's Derwin Jones. God rest his soul. I love Big Cat. Jerome's like, Derwin, is that your mom? I'm like, holy shit, it is. Jimmy! Derwin got two deficiencies. He's not playing against Oklahoma this weekend. Jerome starts laughing. I go, and all of a sudden, Mrs. Jones goes, and you're not helping. I'm going, me? Not me, him, Jerome. Dude. Fantastic times. See, but you can't talk like that and tell people stories like that on the radio. Because you're kind of, the guardrails have gone, used to be here. Now they're here. You know what I mean? Now they're here. The guardrails. They're like this. That's why you get nerds on the radio now. Okay. Used to be like this where you could kind of like do a great show. Now you're like this. It's not worth it. That's why they don't pay any money anymore. Oh, I will watch Tanks and Garcia, Jameson. I will, I promise. Dude, you should see the people that text me. You should see the people that are. Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm helping some kid down in South Florida get his broadcasting career going. I believe we need more African Americans in the broadcasting business. And he's a dear friend of mine, and he's trying to get into a QAM down in Miami. And I know the program director, but it's kind of hard when you don't have the right skin to get into building and you're not an athlete. So I'm helping him. And the reason I say that is because it needs to be said. Because there's not enough broadcasting with women and minorities in it. And we need more of it. Let me get to this topic here. Don't you think Jalen Hurts' biggest challenge is now the one that's ahead of him? Isn't this going to be a bigger challenge than Alabama transferring to Oklahoma, getting the contract? Think about this, for instance. Look at the journey Carson Wentz went on. Small town college. He was the second pick overall, right behind Goff. Right? Second behind. I'll do that one day, Weapon. I'll do that one day. Ed Reed's the greatest player that's ever come out of our program. But wasn't he the second player taken? Okay. Goff was one. Had built himself up to an MVP candidate. Got to the top of Everest. He's making his ascent on the summit. Look how close Wentz was. Wentz is right there at the summit. He's right there at the summit. Right there. And he falls off the mountain. Tone says, play style aside, I personally believe his game is going to be more scrutinized than ever because there are many who will still refuse to accept his on-field success. The reason why, okay, Tone, well, let me say this to you. Thank you, Weapon. Well, let me ask you this. Isn't this last Super Bowl more impressive that Mahomes won than the first one? When he had Tyreek Hill and he had more weapons in his offensive line. There were more weapons on defense with Honey Badger and guys on that. That team was better. But what did Mahomes do? He elevated his game with lesser talent. And so that performance to me is his greatest accomplishment so far. That's the better of the Super Bowls to me, because Mahomes did it with lesser talent. There's lesser talent on the Chiefs today than there were 3 years ago. So how you look at him, okay, you had but Tone, he had the greatest deep threat in the history of the game next to Djax, right? You have one of the top 2 tight ends in the history of the sport. You had a better running game. You had a better O-line. You had a better defense. That first Super Bowl, they had a better roster. This last Super Bowl, you won the game with Juju Smith-Schuster and Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. And he led them there and won it and broke records in the process. You see, the play here, guys, the record and the production in Kansas City hasn't fallen off. The talent has. Why is this? Because Mahomes has elevated his game. Mahomes has elevated his game with lesser talent. He's continuing to get better and better and better. He's doing what Brady did in New England. They never had to put superstar talent around him offensively. Brady had exactly in New England what Mahomes has in Kansas City, a superstar tight end and nothing else. Good players. Wes Welker was a product of being around 2 great quarterbacks. He was a failure in San Diego. He was a failure in Miami. And when he got to 2 quarterbacks, Manning and Brady, he was productive and really good. You think Wes Welker has the same career with Ryan Tannehill? You think Ryan Tannehill elevates Wes Welker's career and game? I don't. Juju Smith-Schuster just signed a contract extension where he got paid more money because Mahomes saved his career. So Jalen Hurts is going to be count on to do the same thing. That's quite, look. So here's why Derek Carr is no longer a Raider. You had Waller. You had Jacobs. You had a pretty good offense. They gave you Devontae Adams. You couldn't do shit with it. You couldn't elevate your game with better players around you, let alone the fact that you couldn't do it with lesser players. You're out. You're out. That's why this year with Dak is important. Dak, dude, to me, I'm sick of this with Dak Prescott. I am totally sick of this. I am not going to continually call that guy an elite player because by the way, I don't ever call him elite. I think he's an elite face of the franchise. I think he's another one of those guys you want. He looks like a great dude, and he has the respect of a lot of people around the league. A lot of people like him. But I'll tell you what, man, $49 million and all the cap hits that are coming because of that salary they gave. And what was the conversation that you guys keep telling me? Well, Sills, they had to. That's the market value that they have to do. Okay, so the Cowboys did exactly what you did, and they got nothing for it. What's the alternative? Throw money away in the garbage can and light it on fire. I guess that's the alternative, right? So according to some of you, you'd rather just throw the money into the trash can and light it on fire because that's the market price. Okay? This is what we're talking about exactly, Tone. If Dak couldn't do it with Amari Cooper, and with CeeDee Lamb, and a healthy Zeke, and a better O-line, what makes Cowboy fans believe he could do it with Cooks and Lamb? I don't. Dude, at the end of the day, Tony Romo was better than this guy. You know why? There's no difference. It's the same bullshit. Romo put up, I'll take Dak. Well, Dak threw a ton of interceptions last year. I don't know. Flip a coin. They're both turds. Go ahead. You could take one. If I have to have the lesser of the evil, does it matter? Here. Tony Romo and Dak Prescott are Kirk Cousins. Those three guys are related, it seems. Those three guys are related. Little one goes, I see the Cowboys struggling. I don't if they get Derrick Henry or Bijan Robinson, because what do? You save Dak's career with Bijan. You save his career. That's why they want that running back. They'll save Prescott's career. Here's the one thing that Jalen has over all those other guys. He's got a wizard GM and an owner who loves him. Jerry Jones, his problem is this. He loves Dak, okay? But he loves Romo more. Dude, Tony Romo's like his lost child. Between Romo and Jerry Jones, you would swear that Tony Romo had the career Troy Aikman had. I mean, Jerry Jones talks about Tony Romo like he's the second coming. Hey, don't be shocked if Romo makes it to the Hall of Fame. Jerry puts the screws on them guys. Let me tell you this. If you can get Paul Tagliabue in the Hall of Fame, you can get Tony Romo in the Hall of Fame. Okay? Jerry's totally the problem, Jameson. He's totally the problem. Yale goes, why? Politics. Politics. Jalen Hurts already went further into playoffs than, hey, Philadelphia, I would say this to you. He's got more wins than Dak Prescott and Romo combined. I think Jalen, how many wins? 2, 3. No, he's got 3 wins. Well, that may be more than them two idiots. Jalen's 3-2 in the postseason. His first year he lost to the Bucs and he lost the Super Bowl, but they won the divisional game. They won the divisional game, the conference. No, I think he's 2-2. I think Jalen's 2-2. Yeah, Jalen's still. So Jalen combined. Dak's 2 and Romo 1. Damn. Tony Romo played like 17 years, and Dak's been there like 9 now. So in 26 years, those two dudes have 3 wins. Yay. Yay. I don't know about you, man. That don't sound like a winning formula to me. Dude, 3 wins and 26 years. Hey, my point about Hurts is, and to Tone's point, he's going to be evaluated harder. Why? Well, he should be. Dude, here? Why do you think there's such scrutiny on Tone? Everyone, why do you guys think there's such scrutiny on LeBron James? Why do you guys think there's such scrutiny on him? Well, any guess why there's scrutiny on LeBron? You're not comparing LeBron James to Karl Malone. You're comparing LeBron James to Michael Jordan. Of course you're going to get more scrutiny when you don't win. When you don't win, dude, if I'm being compared to Clyde Drexler, Clyde's a great player, but you're being compared to Jordan, okay? Anything you do short of winning an NBA championship and being the finals MVP is a failure. anything Jalen does short of Mahomes will be a failure. Some will go, well, it was a great career. Okay. But he wasn't those guys. That's how we have these conversations now, folks. You know how you have that upper tier champagne, then you have the next tier, then you have the cheaper, and then you got Asti Spumante. My grandpa liked that too. Little thing of sugar, drop it in, gun it, you're ready to rock. $9.89. My grandfather had like 8 cases of it. He loved it. Drop a little sugar tablet in it, drink that champagne down. A little highball. My grandpa loved that stuff, man. Right? The little sugar tablet in there, $9.88. Okay? But when you're talking about like, right? My grandpa's drinking Asti Spumante. And people talk about Louis the 16th, that shit, that whiskey, right? Or Black Label or Blue Label. More money's more power, and more power comes with greater responsibility. This guy sounds like he's talking about Superman. Sounds like Superman's dad talking to him. Hey, remember, son, comes great power, comes great responsibility. Yeah, Dad. You know, when you put that cape on, son. Hey, you know what, though? Hey, Uncle Ben. It is Uncle Ben. Hey, Tone. Seriously, man, I think it fits. Jalen, when you put that cape on and you go out to Lincoln Financial and you put that cape on, it's great responsibility. But Uncle Ben, I don't know if you'll know. Showing off again. I love Superman, dude. Superman's the greatest superhero in the history of everything. Don't give me a guy with a utility belt, because he's not really a super guy. The suit's the super guy. Plus, he can't fly. I could see through shit. I could fly. Come on, man. I'll stay away from kryptonite. Hey, if you could stay away from women and kryptonite, you're good. That's all Superman ever had to do. Stay away from kryptonite and chicks. He had it. Instead, what does he do? Lois Lane gets in the way and kryptonite. Again, the chick kind of threw him in the swimming pool, too. Not a good sign. I got to take a time out. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Mess & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Mess & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
So why exactly is Michael Irvin still being suspended by the NFL Network? Haven't they proven that thing was a hoax? I support Michael Irvin 100%. Michael's not always been on his best behavior. But Michael's got personal things going on in his life right now. Chasing a chick around in a hotel lobby right now is the furthest thing from his mind. Trust me. I know. I mean, I don't get it. I told him the other night, I hope you sue the shit out of the NFL, the NFL Network, everyone. And then go to work for the Cowboys. Just saying, man. Yeah, okay. Yes, he's my friend. Yes, he's my friend. Have we had ish? Yes, he's my friend. I got his back. Yeah. Tone goes, thought he was proven innocent too. Why is he still suspended? What's going on there with that? He was proven innocent. 2 minutes, it shows him shaking hands. And get this, somehow there's no audio. I think it's a total setup, man. Hey, real quick, I posted this earlier today, and I've got to thank the people at the Bolitnikoff Award for having me on the national committee and on the board. It's a true honor. I think I've been on the board of directors for the Bolitnikoff Award now for 13 years? Could it be? I know since the beginning. And who would have thunk it? That thing's based in Tallahassee. And it's after a Florida State Seminole, Fred Bolitnikoff. And I'm on the board of directors. I do vote for the award. And I'm also on the Lombardi Award on their national committee as well. I'm very proud to be on both those things. But the folks over at the Bolitnikoff are just wonderful folks. They invite me to the dinner. I'm debating this year on being the keynote speaker. I may finally get off my ass. My aunt and everyone, so, dude, you want to do things? You got to get out of the Dan cave. You got to get out of the Dan cave. So that's held every year in Tallahassee. And actually, believe it or not, Bobby Bowden got me. Bobby asked me, he goes, hey, listen, would you be on the Bolitnikoff Award and on the committee? And I said, man, I don't, receiver? Look at me. I haven't looked like a wide receiver since I was 10. and he's like, just be on it, man. I mean, they want you to be on it too. And I said, okay. So, yeah, FSU. And so I'm one of the things that I really loved being on that committee. So thank you guys very much. It's really cool. Rumor is D-Hop for our 30th. Dude, $17 million cap hit? I don't know. Sue, thank you so much. That means a lot. Boy, I'll tell you what, man. Hey, I'm going to say this to you. I said to you guys we're not going to make the playoffs. I don't know now. I don't know. I think you guys have had you know what? I think you guys have had a great offseason so far. I think the Eagles have had a really great offseason. I have to be honest about it. I mean, getting the corners back, Jason Kelsey's back, restructuring Lane, the contract with Jalen. And now, wait, hey, next week is the draft. A week from tonight. Dude, I'll tell you what. Let's see if they top this off. There's 2 more moves to be made. The draft and June 1. If they win those, man, Howie's going to be in the running again. Then it's all going to be about the team performing for Executive of the Year again, man. I mean, really, really shaping up to be a damn good offseason again. Really is, man. I'll check out Howie's presser today. Guys, you were sensational again. Xander, thank you so much, man. Just a lifesaver. Joe, thank you very much. Tone, you are really becoming one of my favorite people on the planet and one of my favorite people in broadcasting. You have a great career ahead of you, and I see great things happening for you. Thank you so much, my friend, for being part of our life and part of our program. You're fantastic, you and your family. God bless everyone. We'll see you tomorrow 3 to 6, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.